Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the City Commissioner Workshop for Monday, June 26, 2017. Ask City Clerk to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Alcantara?
Present.
Commissioner Bradford?
Here.
Commissioner Herzberg?
Should be a little late.
She's a little late. She'll be here later.
Commissioner Honecker?
Here.
Commissioner Sukup?
Here.
Vice Mayor Nabik?
Here.
Mayor Mazarzik?
Here.
Can we get the control room to turn the gain down a little bit?
Yeah.
It's a little loud in here, Lee. Turn the gain back.
Let the record show Commissioner Hertzberg just walked in, so she's here. We're all here and accounted for.
Thank you. That's better.
If you all stand, we'll do a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair got away from there. Okay, Ms. Shang, you want to go ahead and introduce Jerry, and we'll go, or you don't have to introduce him, but we'll go straight into our.
I think Jerry needs no introduction, so I will ask Jerry if you would come to the podium and make your presentation.
Are you done yet? But you have no sound, huh?
Okay, there we go. It's on. Just like to start by saying in the last 90 days, we've done a lot for economic development in our city. We have set some of the ground for the major development coming forth. March the 29th, we had an economic development workshop. Ms. Crotty came back on May the 15th and presented the findings, which is what is going to be the discussion tonight. This was a tabulation among 4 staff members, Lee Lopez, Wendy Jackson, Scott McGrath, and myself, individually, without consulting with each other, to put together the number of hits for each of these items in Ms. Crotty's report. I will leave it to you to do your own calculations on that. Keeping in mind, if it says 71 hits, that means there was actually 18 items among the 8 different groups that came up and said a business park, a commerce park, an industrial park, something along that line. That was the #1 ranking. Workforce development, 51 hits among the 4 of us, or 13. And it goes down the list. It's all right there. If you're interested, I'll be glad to supply the sheets from the individual members who did it. We then, on June the 19th, I say we, you passed the incentives for something we've never had in this city before. Thank you very much, and congratulations to you. The incentives have been posted to our website prominently under the business portion, on the first page, sent to Team Volusia, sent to Duke Energy, sent to Florida Power and Light, for them to all post. So these are out into the public arena at this point, something we've never had before. Last week, June the 20th, Career Source Flagler of Volusia, Bethune-Cookman University, Volusia County Schools, and the Deltona State College publicly presented on their upcoming investments in Deltona. Yes, they did talk on a little bit extra long about what they're doing generally all over, but in Deltona, we're looking at them in the next 5 years, putting about $100 million investment into our city for education. Part of it is Deltona Middle School, a total rebuild on the same location. That's close to $50 million. but they already have 3 academies at that school, and we'll be bringing more. They're bringing academies now into middle schools, into the 8th grade. Okay, it's not just high school anymore. Pine Ridge High School, the manufacturing lab, and we saw their electric car and all that, where they won state first in place. It's a lab right now. Dr. Russell informed us that it will become an academy, which is much more robust, many more students. Okay, so this is manufacturing they're putting that into. Dr. Labasso, Deltona State College, came in and presented 1 or 2 of the slides he had, brought forth. They're looking at doing another building at Deltona State College. As soon as the student union at the main campus, Deltona is finished, they'll be starting on the new building here. It will be, part of it will be general purpose. The other part of it, and I don't have the ratios, 40-60, 50-50, but it will specialize in health services, our current big thing, and the big thing they're gambling on and believing in Deltona is manufacturing. That's 2 of our major providers of education that are looking at manufacturing. Bethune-Cookman's already working with us on small business assistance and has been for quite a while. So that's what I talked to them about when they came in, and they've been very loyal on carrying that forward. One other presenter, Robin King of Career Source, presented a bubble chart, and I do love bubble charts, showing here's health services. It's one of those 4 with a cross on it like that. In other words, here's businesses that pay well and are fast-growing, businesses that don't pay so well and are still fast-growing, businesses that pays well but are going down, and lost down here in the bottom. Well, there was only one higher than health services and education, and that was manufacturing. Governments throughout our nation and the federal government are looking at manufacturing, reshoring, bringing businesses, manufacturing back. It is my belief this is something that the city should consider. I'm talking to a group right now about a vocational school here in Deltona to teach the trades, electricians, plumbers, etc. This will be another major step for our city if it lands. But that's not manufacturing, but it is needed. So tonight I would ask 2 different things. We discussed the medical horizon, what's next. Skilled workforce was last week. Infrastructure, what's needed. That was number 3 on the list, by the way, that we put together. And the local business base, which is being worked on right now with the assistance of Bethune-Cookman, SCORE, Small Business Development Center, holding classes here in the city. But it comes down to what's beyond the medical horizon and how do we get there? If there are any questions, I'd be glad to address them. Otherwise, I will turn it back over to you because this is your discussion.
Commissioner Bradford?
Awesome. Jerry, I just want to tell you thank you very much. And I did attend your presentation last week. Very knowledgeable, and it's overexciting to see what Deltona, Bethune-Cookman, Career Source, and what the opportunities we're going to have in Deltona. So thank you. It was very enlightening. I received a memo from Jane, passed on from Dennis Casey, regarding his 45 acres off of Howland Boulevard. Now, you're talking a manufacturing area. Is something such as the Casey property, is that suitable for a manufacturing area off of Howland?
Yes, ma'am, it would be suitable for that.
Okay. In your estimation, is that big enough?
No, ma'am, it is not big enough. However, it would be a great first start, and then we could look at other areas and perhaps start even looking at the area south of Frank DeMarcia's Epic Theater, those multiple little lots down there. Maybe start doing a lot of accumulation on those lots down there at this point for an area where we can have an additional business park and perhaps some playing fields and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I know we got it, and I know nobody's brought it up since we've received it. You know, I know there was talk before about a gym or something, but, you know, my goal is to bring jobs to Deltona and start keeping those jobs here in Deltona. I don't know if that's something that, you know, we can bring up at a future agenda and look at. Another item that I'm very concerned about, one of the top ranked items that I get is where is downtown. And it's never been designated where we're looking at having a main corridor. You know, we may talk about, oh, where the community center is and having the center as the downtown area, but I personally think as part of what we need to do of a 5-year incentive program is it needs to be designated where is downtown. I mean, how do we start doing a strategic plan if we don't have a designated area? And I think once we have a designated area, the businesses are more likely to go where they feel that designated area is going to be. So I think it's important that the public knows what staff is thinking as well.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I too saw the memo about the Casey property. I just am a little reluctant about the city getting into the real estate business. I personally would rather concentrate on identifying the infrastructure that would encourage and support the sale of that property for a private developer to create that business park. Now, with that said, I'm not totally against the city developing a business park. I think it's needed, and it probably would be in and of itself an incentive to attract possibly manufacturing or other business to that area. But I think I would like to see an identification of what infrastructure is needed to support business in specific areas in the city, whether it's the Deltona Boulevard corridor with the CRA, the Howland Boulevard corridor from 415 to I-4. What infrastructure do we need in place? Now, one thing I can identify and would like to see staff move forward with is trying to get natural gas lines brought up Normandy, because they exist at Normandy Boulevard and Saxon, that general area down there. I'd like to see natural gas lines brought up all the way through Normandy to Howland Boulevard and tie into the existing gas line that supplies the subdivision on the other side of the street. That would loop that system, which would be beneficial, number one. But number two, and more importantly, if restaurants are eventually going to start looking at the DeMarche property or around the Epic Theater there, certainly an incentive for them is to be able to connect to natural gas and not have to bring in propane, bottled propane to run a restaurant with. So that would be one piece of infrastructure, would be to sit down with the gas company. We only have one that supplies natural gas underground, Florida Public Utilities, and identify areas around the city where we could expand that commercial gas line. I think that would be a really good investment, because I think most of us here, restaurants, we constantly are, when are we going to get restaurants? What can we do? And I think that would help incentivize that. So I'd like to see that list of infrastructure projects before I would make any further decision.
All right. Commissioner Alcantara, you can go ahead and answer.
I just wanted to address the Vice Mayor's comment for a moment. I met with Mark Thompson at Florida Utilities, and I'm only going by what he said. At this point, there's natural gas to Martin Luther King. So we have it that far. He said, you know, when things start to develop, you have somebody who needs the natural gas, we'll work out a program to get those lines run out there. So that's a start at least. But yes, I will address that for you. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner.
You say there's gas lines up to Martin Luther King, up from where?
Commissioner, from basically, I guess they come up Providence and then up to that point. You have to keep in mind, Florida utilities, like many of the utilities, are under Homeland Security, and they're not readily willing to share maps and where lines are and everything along those lines because of that. Now, if you go out, you can actually find hey, there's a gas line here type thing like that.
Are there gas lines where Halifax is?
No, at this point, I do not believe there are gas lines out there. I was told that they go up to Martin Luther King.
Okay. Now, you know, because I'm learning a lot as I go, but in the case of these gas lines, just hypothetical, whenever it were to happen, if it were to happen, isn't it the cost shared between us and the person, the one selling the gas? Or does the city have to run all the lines?
No, Commissioner. It can be shared. If there is enough demand for it, I would imagine that Florida utilities would run the lines themselves. If there's enough demand for restaurants in the area coming in. If we can show them, yes, here are 2, 5, 10 new restaurants that will be coming into the area within the next 12, 18 months, and pretty well lock it down that we know this and have the proof of it, they've been approved, et cetera. Okay, then yes, we could go in front of them and say, hey, what do we have to do to get these up here? Are you willing to run them at this point? Well, they're very close at this point, so.
Okay.
I mean, those are items that are bargained at the time.
And I had, what was it, going back, and Vice Mayor beat me to it, that I also don't believe that our government should be in the real estate business. And if you're wanting to attract businesses, you don't, you know, become part of it and buy the land and then try to market that land. But what you do is make it as easy as possible for businesses wanting to come here by removing some of the roadblocks. Now we have the business incentives that we approved. So yeah, I'm not in favor of us buying land to attract development. But I had a question. Because one of the things that we have heard in previous meetings is that in the Holland area where Halifax is, that there's somehow a shortage of water over there, that somehow that would limit economic development businesses coming in here because of the Deltona North system not having enough. I got an email from the Volusia County Water Resource and Utilities Director, Michael Ulrich, and he said the utility system serving the I-4SR Activity Center and a portion city residents is one of 7 service areas operated by the county. The water treatment facility located along Wolfpack Run has a capacity of 1.5 MGD, an annual daily average of 0.62 MGD. Total production well capacity is 2.6 MGD, and the county has additional access to potable water through interconnects with the landowner city of Deltona, with sufficient capacity to serve the much anticipated growth within the activity center area. Sufficient capacity to serve the much anticipated growth within the activity center area is a welcomed sight. The county is currently developing a hydraulic model to help in planning facilities for future demand and the development 7 to 10 years out. The county will continue to invest in reclaimed water infrastructure to offset portable water demand. Staff is also working on a 3-year schedule for upgrades to the wastewater treatment facility at Wolfpack Run, which currently has enough sufficient capacity between 0.4 and 0.5. I just want to read that because I was under the impression, because some information that was put out in a previous meeting, that there was somehow a shortage of water or an issue there with the Deltona North system, and that appears to not be the case. So I just want to put that out there. But with the business incentive, I think that it's been long overdue, and I'm hoping that we can actually start getting some businesses in here. One company that I was thinking about the other day that just came to me was IKEA. I don't know if IKEA would be interested or not, but we see all these home developments that are being planned here in Deltona and being built, and we have a high level of rental, a lot of rental properties here. So I don't know, I think the closest one is in Orlando.
It is.
We could reach out to them. Maybe they'd be interested. I don't know if there's a place for them, but I was just thinking about IKEA the other day. So
I thank you for that suggestion.
Yep.
If I could address what you mentioned about city ownership of the property, and the vice mayor also. I have a developer who has a source of funds who has expressed interest in working with the city in regards to doing some type of a public-private, to where the city does not bear all the burden. They would bear part of the burden. A lot of this would be the city could perhaps buy, again, these are things to be worked out, but I'd ask the commission to consider whether it's the Casey property, the Carter property, whatever property it is. This city needs a business park of some type. I don't care what we have to do to get one, but this city has to recognize everyone at this point is investing in Deltona for manufacturing. And we need to invest in this city for that also.
And as far as the business city private public partnership, what are they looking for from the city?
At this point, it has not progressed that far. And when it starts getting to progressing that far, that's when I would ask our city legal counsel to meet with their legal counsel and put forward a understanding that could be put before the commission and would be agreed to by the developer's money source. I will say, I cannot divulge the name of the developer, but he is very well known as probably the most respected developer in southwest of Volusia. So my apologies, I can't give a name on that. If I did, you would all know immediately who I'm talking about.
And, we'll cross those bridges when we get to them, so, but I did recall being informed about a potential public-private partnership with the YMCA. I don't know if Bob was the only one who was informed about that, but it was kind of in passing. Do you have any knowledge of that?
No, I'm not involved with that one in any way or form.
Okay,
that would be more along the parks and that type of thing.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hertzberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions. Jerry, what is a recommended acreage size for a business park that you would recommend? Because you said the KC property of about, 35, 40 acres isn't large enough? Because I know the way that property is set up, you can't use the whole thing. Obviously, it's not pad ready. It's, would need a lot of work to bring that up to any type of a standard. So what kind of acreage are you looking at?
Right now, Mr. Casey has 45 acres. I'd love to have 100, but I just don't see 100 coming forth anytime soon.
Is there a 100-acre parcel anywhere in the city outside of the activity center?
That is not available. The only ones that are available in, let's say, that are available in the city that are 100 acres are extremely distant from any of our utilities. For example, D Ranch. If you looked at D Ranch and you have well over 100 acres of developable land, it's not that bad an area. Okay, it's on 415, a high transit commuter. You'd have access to the Orlando Sanford Airport, access on 415 to 417, which is the bypass all the way around Orlando. But we don't have water, we don't have sewer, there's no natural gas, no work's been done on the property. The asking price is about $17 million. And I was informed by Public Works that to run water and sewer down there would be $4 million plus. It has nothing to do with the cost of land. That's just to run the utilities down there, which sort of, in my mind, takes it a little bit out of what we're looking at right here.
Another question. Basically, some of our neighboring cities have business parks. Who has that? Orange City, DeBerry, DeLand?
Orange City, DeBerry. It's easier, Commissioner, to say much quickly. Oak Hill does not have a true business park of any type. Lake Helen does not have one, and Pearson does not have one. Every other city in the county has some type of a business park. In fact, the county itself has a business park right up at 44 DeLand Crossings. Mm-hmm. Everybody has one.
And I guess my next question is going to be, how successful are they? In other words, our neighboring cities, how full is DeBerry's, how full is Orange City's, what are we looking at? In other words, do we have, if we were to go ahead and do this, because it sounds like a fine idea, what is the reality of business relocating there or locating there? I guess that's just my question.
Well, I can look at DeLand, and they've opened 3 or 4 major manufacturing facilities in DeLand in the last 4 or 5 years. Orange City has a very small one, a lot of flex space, that type of thing off of Rhode Island. But there's just dozens upon dozens upon dozens of little 1 and 4 and 10 unit little buildings mm-hmm. back there, and they're all full and they're all creating jobs, and it works.
Okay.
They're working.
The last question, you said that there are entities investing for manufacturing in the city. Are you talking about like the schools, basically?
Yes, ma'am. Deltona State College is looking at, again, their new building will be for health services, as I said, our current big thing, and manufacturing, what they consider to be the next big thing. Pine Ridge High School mm-hmm. is expanding the manufacturing lab, which we're all familiar with and extremely proud of, into an academy, which will mean it will be grown.
And just to throw a little, it's not that I'm anti this at all. I just want to make sure before the city invests any money that you're looking at something that has a chance for success, because the last that I heard through Team Volusia and Deltona State, they can't get students to get enrolled in the academy in their program. What they did is they had a full program from the high school where you'd spend the entire day there. They couldn't get any takers. Then what they did is they split it, half day in high school, half day at Deltona State. They have the facility, they have everything there. They cannot get students to sign up. Mm-hmm. So when you look at that, here is Deltona State already working on that, and they've already got a setup to partner with the high schools, and the students aren't interested. So, I mean, what are we really looking at in terms of having our Deltona students and people here be interested in something like that when Mr. Labasso, he said they can't even fill that, and that was just a month or so ago, and maybe that's changed. Because I know they changed the structure, because the original thing was the kids didn't want to spend the whole day away from high school and be in this program at Deltona State. So now what they started doing is saying, all right, to have your social activity and still be a part of high school, you get half at Deltona and half there. And it's still having issues gathering people to take that academy, those classes. That's just another question, that needs to be looked at and needs to be put out there. And I don't expect you to answer that, Jerry. I mean,
Commissioner, I don't mean to answer this in any flippant way, but again, that's over on the far east side of the county, and students from Deltona don't want to travel 40 minutes across county.
And I'll agree with that, but we're all saying that we need people to go into manufacturing and vocational training. However, it's a mindset that needs to be changed for students to understand that to want to do that. And the last comment I have is on demographics and putting up a business park. And just because we put it on a certain area, that doesn't necessarily mean businesses are going to come. Businesses run their demographics, and if you don't meet their numbers, you're not getting it. I mean, and again, you know this just as, and it's whether it's retail or whatever, if you're not in that area and you don't have the income, you don't have the drive-by traffic, you don't have that, they're not going to come no matter what you offer. So in just playing devil's advocate, I prefer to look at the hardship that we have and need to work on those things in addition to what everyone else has said with infrastructure and so forth, to just make sure, you know, I'll do incentives all day long, provided there's a good, you know, guarantee for return, but an actual physical space, a public-private partnership would be ideal, at least for me to look at. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Sukup?
Yeah, I've been sitting in this seat for a little over 2.5 years. I was involved about a year before that. You know, I keep hearing the city say we're open for business. Manufacturing has been a big push since I've been here. Now, we paid big money to Team Volusia. Team Volusia did a study of a lot of our properties in Deltona and basically came back and said, guys, we're not set up for manufacturing. We're just not. We're not set up for manufacturing jobs. That's straight from the mouth of Team Volusia. Now, I'm going to encourage everybody to get involved with all the Chamber of Commerce. Because if you go talk to these business owners, they will tell you right now they cannot find qualified help in any job. So everyone keeps saying we want to bring jobs. We want to bring jobs. And I'm going to say, whoa, pump the brakes a little bit. Pump the brakes. Because until you have a qualified workforce, an educated workforce, I don't care who you bring in, because we don't have people to man them. I'm in communications with the largest electrical company in this area. You can't find help. The largest plumber in this area cannot find help. And down. Manufacturing is no different. You have to be trained in manufacturing. We do have a manufacturing academy at Pine Ridge, absolutely. 25 kids a class. I don't think that's going to develop the workforce we need. Second of all, the pieces of property that we need, we already heard the large size of land that you need for not only business parks, but for manufacturing jobs. I think it's time. I mean, we keep talking. I had the privilege of attending a meeting with Santiago Vila down in Miami last week. There's help coming. There's help coming. There will be a vocational school in this city sooner than later. That is where the key is. The key is training a workforce, keeping that facility open at night, training the adults. I've said this for the last couple months. The average household in Deltona income has dropped in the last 10 years from $53,000 to $43,000. We have to start training our people. We have to give them careers, make sure we're focusing on them, focusing on the kids, the next generation, so that our community can thrive, that businesses will want to come in because they know we have a workforce to put out there. So when we talk about Mr. Casey's land, I think everybody understands what I believe is the perfect use of that land, and I don't think it's a business park. We can hit that on the next section of this thing. I still believe it came up once before. I was not there that night. It got shot down. I believe Mitch was the only one that voted for it. But I still believe we as a commission should look seriously at we talk about where's the future of Deltona. For economic development, where's the future of Deltona? The easiest place to develop right now is off of Howland Boulevard. I think we all will agree that. Except there's a huge eyesore sitting on the main exit of Howland Boulevard, and that's a concrete plant. And I believe that we should look at that. The deal was on the table. There was a place that we found that they would be willing to move to, everything. It got shot down 2 years ago. I believe if the city would acquire that 4 acres, we own the light coming into that piece of property. That is the entryway to our city. You then go to a restaurant, like Commissioner Novick said, and say, listen, we own the property. We won't charge you for it for 5 years. Come put a restaurant right here, and I believe you'll see the rest of the stuff start popping up. But then we take a little piece of the puzzle, a 4-acre piece, and you can get your money back in it. We've talked about that. Let's also talk about Howland Boulevard. I was driving down there the other day, and I threw up in my mouth. Have you guys driven down Howland Boulevard up there off I-4? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. If I'm Halifax right now, I'm livid. Shoot, there's signs on the side. I mean, the weeds are growing up all over the area. I don't understand. If that is the entryway, that's the gateway, if that's where we're trying to push our businesses, and we're going to sit here and preach manufacturing, it's disgusting. Why are we not holding the county accountable to make sure that piece of property is maintained? You know, like I said, I get the privilege to drive into Vero Beach and Melbourne and all these other nicer areas. And I said, this would never work. This would never work over in DeBerry. This would never work over in Port Orange, Ormond Beach. Why is it okay for it to do it here? Our main drag, we're preaching economic development. We're trying to bring in people. We've been trying to bring them in for too long, but it's not working. All I'm saying is we need to start realizing, let's not put the cart before the horse. We have to train a community of workers first. I think that should be the focus and the emphasis. I believe the rest of it will come. But when you talk about economic development, please, city manager, please. Our sign wasn't working. So our billboard was out. The grass is just disgusting. We need to hold that whole area up there. It should look mint at all times of the day. Last time Team Volusia was sitting in here, they said they were going to start bringing people on tours. I'm like, please don't bring them on a tour of this. Don't do it. It's embarrassing. Otherwise, let's look on the other side. I emailed the city manager this week. Deltona Boulevard, right behind the Walmart. I mean, not the Walmart, the McDonald's and the Waffle House. The power lines. They came in, they mowed it one time, it's back to looking disgusting. There goes another entrance. That's another entrance to our city. So 2 of our entrances right now are just god-awful. God-awful. And then I was looking at Saxon Boulevard, right? They just came in, re-landscaped everything. We got beautiful palm tree. The grass is this high. It's not taken care of. And I'm saying, okay. You get one chance to make a first impression. You get one chance to make a first impression. And if I'm a business owner who knows that Deltona doesn't have a qualified workforce and that we don't take any pride in our entranceways because we're allowing the state and the county to neglect these roadways for us, it's time for us to stand up and hold these people accountable, get focusing on education, not only for adult education, but on these kids, train a workforce, and let's take a step and buy that Mauschmeyer concrete out, and we have a 4-acre piece right there in the front. We get rid of a huge eyesore, and we can move forward there. That's my 2 pieces. Thank you.
All right. Is this supposed to be a workshop? And what we've done is we spent 40 minutes just all stating. So let me. Do you want to respond? Well, yeah, it's a workshop, but you want me to use this sheet, or do you want me to get rid of this? If Commissioner Honecker speaks, then everybody's had a chance, and I'll quit using this, and we'll talk back and forth for a few minutes. Probably the best thing to do. Okay, Commissioner Honecker, then I'll speak, and then we'll have a little mix and match here.
And coming at the end, you do get to make comments on others, like the manufacturing, and they're not willing to travel, and Commissioner Zukup is correct. They won't travel. Edgewater, Oak Hill, and New Smyrna Beach had the opportunity for manufacturing training over in Daytona Beach at their high-speed center on the other side of Daytona Beach. They would not travel there. They could not fill the classes. But they will travel here if we put it in here, and they will get the education because manufacturing jobs are critical. I'm ecstatic to hear all the things. I'm sorry I couldn't be at that meeting. All the things that the schools are doing and the colleges are doing in manufacturing and training, and that was 51 hits. That was second on their list was workforce development education. So that's good. Good signs all. Landscaping on Howland, I agree. They did that landscaping on Saxon, but the county's not keeping it up. They're going to come in. We got the landscaping approved for Howland, and it's going to look beautiful, but we do have to stay on the county to keep that up. I mean, eventually, once it's 4-lane, and they did approve on the county's agenda, they approved the engineering plan funding. That's a couple $100,000 to finish 4-laning Howland Boulevard. And once that's 4-lane, I know one of the owners that owns property right down here, Providence and Howland, he said he can't wait till it's 4-lane because then he knows his property will double in value and businesses will start coming here because it's 4-laned all the way. And we had discussed, I don't know if it was before Commissioner Bradford's time or not, we had discussed that Howland Boulevard is our main economic development corridor. So if that's going to be your main economic development corridor, eventually it won't be in our careers, probably won't be in our lifetime, because it's going to take a while to develop a downtown Deltona, but when you think it would be there, that's a long-term project. But Howland Boulevard from I-4 to 415, Commissioner Sukup hit the nail on the head with that concrete plant, and also Public Works. It didn't come up for the value that we want. Oh, it's not going to get over a $1.25 million. So what? We sell that property, move Public Works, and the business that you put in there is for long term. For a city that lasts forever and ever, you're going to collect those business taxes, that business that moves in there. So you don't get your money out of selling it right away. That's not what's important. It costs you maybe $2.5 million to move, and you get it $1.25 million. Long term, you need to clean that corner up and move Public Works. Howland Boulevard is a main corridor. I agree with the concrete plant and Public Works. We need to do a public-private partnership, though, on that concrete plant. We're not going to be able to do it on our own. Public Works, we can do it on our own. We own it. We should just move them and then put the property up for sale. And I'm all for right now, and you're looking for a direction to go, professional office building. You free that corner up, you got professional office building. That's a short 5-year to 10-year project, and that can be filling in while all these other projects are starting to fall in place. The 7-year that I heard down the road. All these other things are falling in place. I agree with the Vice Mayor on infrastructure. We need to see what our current infrastructure is and what's needed in what areas. So we can look at, okay, where are we looking at developing? And I am in favor of selling that Public Works concrete. I am in favor of possibly buying land, but we need to look at what we're going to use it for. And I agree with Commissioner Sukup. We'll talk about that in the next thing, because sometimes you need to buy land to make things better for the residents, but maybe not for business, maybe for the residents. And Jerry, this one's for you. I've mentioned everything else, but this one's for you, and the next question for Jane. You're going to retire when? I'm serious. You're going to retire when?
October 1, 2018.
Okay. You got a lot of irons in the fire, and a lot's going to go on past then. And Jane, this one's for you. How far in advance are you planning on bringing somebody on so he can cross-train that person? You need to look long-term. I mean, we're talking next year, October next year. So when are you planning on bringing? I
have a proposal for you that will be discussed when we have our budget discussions.
Okay. All right, because, I forgot his professional title, but one of the operations officers for Halifax Health. I mean, during campaigns, you hear different commissioners taking credit for different health things coming into the city. That operations officer said, if not for your economic development manager, Jerry Mays, Halifax Hospital would not be here. We need an economic development manager in the city of Deltona, always. Somebody that's concentrating on that. And Jerry's going to retire next year, so we need to be looking at future plans. So I'm glad you're looking at that and going to brief us on it. But for my input, Jerry, professional office building.
Business park, Commissioner. Business park can be manufacturing, office buildings, flex space, an incubator, multiple items. Vocational school.
And that's it, Mayor. Thanks.
Is that it, sir?
Yes.
Okay. There's probably nothing on here that I disagree with except the element of the public. You start talking buying millions of dollars worth of property with the potential to do anything, and we better be able to sell that to the community. Business doesn't grow by governments buying land and having it available. Business grows by entrepreneurs that want to come in and settle. I'm more inclined to agree. This would be amazing with Commissioner Sukup. We could clean this up. I drove Saxon yesterday, I think it was last night, and the weeds are growing up, just cracks. You would not see that anywhere else in this county. You just don't. The West Volusia side of the county, and especially the Deltona side, has 3 major interchanges on I-4, and they do not look well. I don't believe they're as bad as some of the adjectives some people use, but they're bad. They don't look good. They're not maintained. They're not pretty. All that landscaping that was put in, those of you who haven't been around here a long time probably don't remember when we had the agreement with the 3 cities. We were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. You were here, Jerry, on those interchanges. They had wells in there. They had pumps in there. They had plants in there. When about 2000 and maybe 10, we started saying enough is enough. The county wasn't taking care of it to the level, but they were charging us. I don't remember the numbers, but I know it was several $100,000 a year to maintain those intersections, and it was not being done right. So I think we pulled out, DeBerry pulled out. They were going to pull all the plants out. Then they get a grant, and because they get a grant, they put the plants in there, but nobody takes care of them once they put them in. It's useless to have all those plants down there, And I think first impressions, like Commissioner Sukup said, is a big thing. But we can't go out and start buying land and expect, we can do everything we can, I don't know who mentioned it, to support somebody, but they need to bring ideas to us. They need to bring their ideas to us, entrepreneurs that want to make money. I was, I guess, jokingly talking to the city manager about tonight's meeting. She asked if there was anything I needed, and I said, no, not really. I said, the one idea I have is we all want these people here, but they don't come here. Why? Because we shop outside of town. Mm-hmm. We don't support our local businesses. That becomes very important to other businesses that want to come to town. Somebody mentioned going to somewhere and letting somebody know about a certain thing or whatever, but have we ever put an ad out? You know, welcome to Deltona, or, you know, in other words, I didn't sit down and write anything out, but I'm just saying, we need to let people know. Here's a city of 90,000. Would you believe, you know, banner. 90,000 people, no new car dealership, no used car dealership, no small engine repair, no this, no that, no light manufacturing. Hey, you got a commission dedicated to helping you get your business started. You tell us what you need to relocate to Deltona. Something in their face, I think, would go a long way. And then as they present their idea to us, then we negotiate whether we want to work with them or not and partner with them. But we have the incentives now out there that you asked for. But I can't see us buying land hoping we can get something together. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to really know who you're talking about. Major developers around here, mostly we know who they are, and they can do it. And that is probably, that reputation of being able to do things is something that we could look at. But I don't know how the public would accept, and we'll know in a couple of weeks when we start getting into the budget, because everybody's ideas will change then. But if we start spending millions on buying property with the hope, then you have to develop. It's a big project. I've been through a few of my own where I built. Then you got to do all of the site work, all of the planning, all of that. That's a lot of money involved in doing that to set it up. And then you got to hope they're going to come. And a lot of places would build if we had vacant storage buildings, things like that. So I agree with 90% of what people say, and the only thing that I'm having a real problem with is putting any money out unless we had a partner that needed a 5,000 square foot place. I think the idea is great. I think we could work with a developer that had the land that wanted to subdivide it. Mr. Casey had an opportunity here, and I guess there's no other way to say it, but he's the one that made a change in the contract that this commission said they wouldn't go along with. So I read his letter, and I understand him, but he had other ideas that he was going to do something with the property. Apparently that fell through, so he's offering it to us again. So I'm not excited about trying to work with him right now unless I see somebody that wants to do something with that property. I guess we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, because I think that was a great idea before. But if you want, commissioners, if you will allow me to ignore this thing for a moment, we can just talk.
Can I just touch on something that you just said?
That's what I'm saying. Let's do that, and let's be polite and kind of but back and forth.
Going back to what you just said too. Also, if you talk to some of the people who have put businesses in the city, you will hear nightmares. And you're still hearing those nightmares. And I still believe we need to look at our building department and make sure that this is set up to run with ease as well, that we're really truly here for them, because I'm dealing with two right now that are still cursing Deltona because the process, they say, is not business friendly. So we need to look at that, I think, as a commission and make sure that that process is running freely. So if a businesses choose to come in here, that it's streamlined and they are taken care of and treated like a king.
More Disney type attitudes. Yeah.
Well,
Commissioner, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I've got a few things. And first of all,
Jerry,
and I'm hoping you didn't mean it this way.
We'll call you if we need you.
But I take offense to any resident in Deltona being told that they're unqualified individuals and that's why we don't have jobs here. That is the biggest line of. My problem is this, okay, and I'm going to keep it clean here. My workforce in Deltona, they go to Orlando, they go to Sanford, they go to Daytona. There is a workforce here. And if people would have showed up at the meeting last week, they would have heard what Bethune, what Daytona State, what Career Source, and what the local schools are offering to all the residents. I have a list of many things that businesses can do and individuals can do to make themselves more educated and more qualified. Deltona does have a qualified workforce. My residents aren't stupid. And that's how I took it. And I'm sorry to say that that's how I took it. When you say unqualified, that's how I take it. And you guys are not unqualified. You are qualified. And I'm going to work until we get a business park here. Now, as far as Howland Boulevard, I drove to Daytona Beach the other day, New Smyrna Beach. Okay, and I'm not giving the county, I'm not sticking up for them for squat. And I'm going to tell you, even at my home, I am having a heck of a time keeping up with grass. The rain is ferocious. Has Deltona or Howland Boulevard looked better? It most definitely has. I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are going to have a beautification. It was sent in an email to you that that project's soon going to be starting. As far as the workforce, also, they say when it comes to bringing restaurants and hotels and all these other wonderful things with economic development, you need a workforce. Well, here's my take on that. I've got a Burger King coming in Howland. I have Halifax Hospital, which is going to have hundreds of employees. I have Golden Choice Nursing Home, which is going to have employees. I have Chip, who from the car wash, is going to have employees. I have a Winn-Dixie. I have a lot of places there that have employees that are going to need a place to eat. So we do need the infrastructure. A business park, I'm not saying that I want to go into a real estate, let's go sell real estate. It's the city's responsibility for us to provide jobs. So I didn't say it to say, hey, let's buy this, let's piece it off, and let's do that. Did I know that there was an option for somebody that wanted to partner with the city? Possibly, yes, I do. And to bring in jobs other than working as a minimum wage, and there's nothing wrong with it, as you know, our high school kids do, Burger King, Dunkin' Donuts, and those. The job of bringing in a business park is to bring the jobs that mom and dad can work at as well, not just the high school kids. And I would like to see us keep our qualified workforce in Deltona. And it may not be the Casey property. I just know there's an opportunity with the Casey property. That's why I brought the Casey property up. There is a grant, which I would love for us to give direction to the, I guess, the attorney. There is a Main Street grant that local cities can actually apply for that helps them design and build that area. I mean, I can visualize what Howland downtown would look at, but a lot of residents, they're not as visual as that. So letting us apply for grants, and what they do is they actually come in and they help you do the design. Kind of, I believe Maitland did it, Tavares did it, Mount Dora did it. When there's no city, they will actually give you a grant, they'll come in and they'll help you do, you know, a design for what your downtown's going to look at. That's priceless. And that's a big plus as well. But I do want to stress one more time, I have a very qualified workforce, and eventually we will have you all staying in Deltona.
All right.
Hey, Mayor, can I respond to that real quick?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying we don't have the qualified people here. We don't have the jobs for them here to keep them here. But if you didn't come to, you were there, well, we have a qualified workforce, but they're just working out of town.
Let me just, listen, numbers don't lie, Commissioner Bradford. Here's the census in Deltona right here, okay? 15% of our residents have a bachelor's degree or higher. 15%. Okay, so you do the math on 90,000 people. Second of all, only 88% of our people have a high school diploma. When I talk about a qualified workforce, I'm not talking about working at Burger King. I'm talking about working as an electrician, working as a plumber, working in the jobs of manufacturing. They're not qualified. They need this education. This is something that we must pour into this community. If you think that these people are going to crawl out of their house and just go to work at a manufacturing plant, it's not going to happen without training. They have to have this. That's why the Pine Ridge manufacturing is huge for us, and growing that is huge. But We have an unqualified workforce. Not when I'm not talking Burger King or those type of minimum wage
I'm
jobs.
not either.
I'm talking about jobs that pay money. You want to talk nursing? You need most of them are at least 2-year schools. Okay, 15% of our people have a bachelor's degree. 15%. That's not. This is right here. That tells me we have an uneducated community. So we need to pour education is money. Okay, education means money.
So that means I shouldn't own a business and that because I don't have a bachelor's.
I'm telling you right now, this community needs education.
Commissioner, if you'd have been here at Career Source the other night, Jerry touched on it, but you did it justice, Jerry, I know, but we were here, so some of us, we're going along. You should have been here. I was impressed. I told him it was one of the best presentations I've seen from the educational community. Everything you're saying, they're doing.
Yeah, they're doing.
They're in the process
Deltona.
it blew me away.
Even Deltona, they're all doing. And they're
it's
booked.
amazing what they're doing.
They're booked to capacity.
And they're going toward the manufacturing thing, just what Jerry brought up. They're going toward it. You have, I don't want to single him out there, but we got some business people sitting in the audience. They look for work for, there's a whole lot more to just having a bachelor's degree. There's people, these trades, that's what the schools are doing. They're trying to get these young people interested in the STEM programs.
But the STEM
then they'll go on. But then they'll go on and teach.
Level.
But they're talking right here next door. They're talking about doing electrical classes, plumbing classes, things like that. They're talking about that stuff coming. So
exactly, and why is it coming? Because they know we have a need for it, because we're not educated enough to do this. My brothers, look, I have family members that own concrete companies in the city.
We can't change
find
it today.
laborers. They can't find people. We have to pour into education. If we would focus on educating this community, the youth and the adults, you would see the jobs and the businesses start coming.
That's what the schools
and they are doing.
They're doing it right now.
They're not.
Had you been here, you would hear about all the programs that they're bringing in the next 3-5 years.
If there's one thing I'm involved in the school system. Okay, I know what's going on in the system. That's why we are looking to go outside and come and bring some people in that know what they're doing and focus on what we're talking about. So I'm hoping in a couple of weeks we'll have a presentation for you guys. But I'm telling you right now, it's education.
All right, let's let somebody else jump in. Anybody else got anything? Otherwise, I'm going to get the public.
I'll just, I'll bring this up, and I hear what Anita's saying, and I hear what Brian's saying. About a year and a half ago, I told you all I went to the Central Florida Labor Council. They had their Sunday that they put on for elected officials, and they represent 33,000 labor union workers in Volusia-Flagler County. And they told us this is going to be the problem over the next 10 years as a result of the recession. Guys that were concrete workers, electricians, plumbers, the trades, had no work. So they retrained themselves. They now are in banking, they're in computers, they're in healthcare, they're wherever. And so there is a tremendous deficit in the trades and people being able to properly construct buildings. And where this snowballs then is if you don't have a good workforce that's constructing buildings or roads or whatever out there, then the inspectors that are inspecting that work are failing the projects and then having to take more time to re-inspect those projects. So all of this stuff about economic development is not one single answer. All the things that Jerry has listed here are all components to that. We can't just pour $1 million into education. We can't just buy a business park. We can't just do something with tourism or just do branding. We have to do a portion of all these things and many other things that aren't even on here. Transportation. Infrastructure. When we're talking about infrastructure, we're not just talking about bricks and mortar. We're talking about, do we have enough inspectors to be able to go out and inspect these buildings in a timely manner and process plans when business starts to pick up and people start to build things? Do we have adequate sheriff's deputies to provide law enforcement, traffic? Do we have enough firefighters to meet ISO requirements when these larger businesses start to come in? All of these things have to be done in some sort of a balance. And that's where we need to look to the strategic plan, and we need to start feeding percentages into each of the areas and not just try and dump something into one particular area. We're going to talk to, Mark's going to give us a presentation in a little bit about Parks and Rec. Is that a component of economic development? Absolutely it is, because it tends to lead towards the quality of life. And when people are going to work in a community and they're going to live in that community, if we want them to live here and spend their dollars from their job here, not only do we have to have the restaurants here and the retail stores and that, but we also have to have the recreational opportunities for them. We have to have the good schools here for them. So it's all of these things combined together. Everybody is saying a different part of it. You're both right. You're both 100% right in what you're saying. But we have to figure out the percentages of how much we're going to invest in each of those areas.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone that wants to speak to public? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, George.
George, I didn't want to call you out before, but because you got up now, we know your local business, but I was talking about it. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, my name is George Fall. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and commissioners, I have to tell you, I've been in the city well over 20 years. First of all, payroll-wise, have paid out millions of dollars to residents that live within the city. We don't have anyone in minimum wage. We pay well above minimum wage. I'm very disgusted with the fact that we even have anyone addressing the city in such a negative fashion right now. I'm proud of the citizens in Deltona. I'm proud of what this community's been all about. I'm proud of the fact of what Jerry's done in this city. I'm proud of what we've seen in accomplishments in the city. I got to tell you, I want to see one thing from the commissioners and everyone else in the city is more positive news. I'm tired of hearing all the negative. I'm tired of listening to the fact that our city isn't a city with a lot of great potential, okay? This city here, it has so many people crossing over to Lake Mary that are clients of mine. I have thousands of clients, and the bottom line is they're great people. Some of them have master's degrees, PhDs, and yes, some don't have bachelor's degrees. But you know what? They're all great people, hard-working people. We have a city full of a diversity of culture that is incredible. We have a city here that can be absolutely, right here locally, one of the most flourishing cities within the county, okay? We have the population. We have the people. We need the infrastructure. We need to support the businesses to grow. We need to support people like Jerry that are trying to bring businesses in. We got to get rid of all the negativity that we are sharing every time we get together for a meeting. That's why I watch it at home instead of being here, okay, because I get so upset. But again, I want to let you know, okay, we have a great base. A lot of my employees live right here in the city, okay, have lived in the city. Bottom line is, okay, we need to help the businesses here, and we need to help the businesses coming in, and we need to start talking about the positive news. And yes, I agree, we need to make our 3 gateways the most beautiful gateways we can. Okay,
Thanks,
and that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thanks.
Santiago, Deltona, Florida. I didn't take any offense, actually, to what Commissioner Sukup said. I didn't understand it to be that he's calling anybody dumb. That's just my point of view. What I think he's trying to say is, because of different circumstances, maybe different things happen to people in their lives, some people weren't able to graduate from high school, go to college. What we need to do is provide that opportunity, not by the city buying property or opening schools, but talking to these places, letting them know, hey, we have a city that's willing to help you come to us and build that atmosphere so you can come. Now, in regards to businesses, I closed my business down in Orange City, and I've been trying to relocate it here to Deltona. It's not only the infrastructure that you guys are missing. There's a whole lot of things that come along with moving a business. And the reason I'm doing it is because I'm trying to walk the walk. If you know, I want to have my business here in Deltona. Here's a problem that I'm running into. when I'm looking at locations, I'm looking at places with sewage. That's a big, you know, it's a big fund that I'm going to have to set aside for that, you know, as well. So it's a whole lot of things, a whole lot of issues that the city is going through. It's just not, oh, can we find a business for this or a business for that? No, infrastructure, the water, the quality of the water is a lot of things. It's not just put into one thing. It's a lot of things that we have a problem with. And I think education is going to help this city move forward, because those people that didn't have the chance to graduate, now you start bringing in schools, vocational schools, technical schools, come here and help us. Now they have an opportunity. Now those that never thought about going to college are actually thinking, hey, maybe now I can get an associate's degree. Maybe I can get a bachelor's degree. Now I can get a higher paying job. We have to think about those things as well.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Oh, he snuck around.
Snuck in behind you.
I thought he left. All right, go ahead.
Oh,
He's
Jim,
got his jacket on because it's freezing in here.
Freezing in here.
Okay, Old Mill Drive, Deltona. I want to hit 2 points. Number one, city's role. I do not believe you guys...
Jim, get the mic up, Jim. I can barely hear you.
Well, that's unusual. Okay, government's role should not be in real estate, should not be in business development. Government's role should be in incentives. It should be support. When we're talking about support, I'm talking about when a business comes into our community, our departments should say, how can I help you? How can I make this process go easier? How can I make it better? Our employees should adopt that business as well as their pet project and help them move forward to success. From what I have heard at meetings in the past, that has not always happened. And contractors, businesses shun away from us because of the problems they've run into going through our departments. One other thing, education, very important. When I was in high school, 85% of my graduating class went to the workforce. 15% went to college. Today, 85% goes to college, 15% went into workforce. Part of that reason, manufacturing left. We're bringing manufacturing back today. One of the big things we're running into now, you go into school and the school board tells you what they want you to take. What we need and what I used to have was when businesses came out and sold their needs. What jobs do we have? What jobs will we have? What do they pay? Right now, you look at everybody else, and they're saying, get a college education, get into management. That's where the big bucks is. It used to be in manufacturing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I guess to wrap it up, Jerry.
Mayor, could I just say something when you're done?
Yeah, but to wrap it up, the direction I know that you're looking for is, I think we all think you're doing a great job. I really do. I don't think there's a criticism. I think the problem is there's 7 of us, and all of us have certain areas that we concentrate on. Get us anybody interested, get them in here. If you could come up with a way to get creative. I mean, we've said that repeatedly over the years. We could kick around some of our ideas about, you know, what we'd like to see in that, but it takes that entrepreneur with the bucks that's going to come in here, whether he's got all of it and wants a partner or whether he just wants to come in. We want to remove the roadblocks. I think George said, really hit the nail on the head. We got to work together as a team. If they see a good, strong team here promoting this city, promoting them, they're going to feel more comfortable to come in. So if we work more as a team, I've heard letters written, statements written here by commissioners tonight that I didn't know anything about, and they affect that. We should all know that. So I'm encouraging all the commissioners to share this data that they get too, because we're not all hearing the same thing. It's hard to be uniform in our direction if we don't all have the same amount of information. So, you know, these last 3 or 4 meetings we've had in here, they've been really outstanding. I mean, they've really brought a focus, I guess, on what we're trying to do as a community, and we need to get all of us on the same page working for that, moving that forward. So thank you. I guess, you know, if you see an impediment to your job or to somebody who wants to come to this town, let us know instantaneously, and we'll try to take some action. And if it has to be an emergency meeting, just get a hold of Jane, she'll get a hold of me, and we'll do it. I mean, we don't want anybody walking away. Commissioner Hertzberg, you had something to say, and I'll let him
did.
wrap up, and then we'll get
Thank you, Mayor.
Mark
Just
Okay.
on 2 points on the beautification. We do have 3 gateways along I-4, and I know that we complain that the county doesn't do this and the county doesn't do that. But when you look at other municipalities, they have a minimum part of maintenance on some of their state roads and their county roads that run through them, and they supplement that maintenance with the city itself. And for our attitude to be, well, they have to do everything and do it to our standards, that doesn't always work that way. We have to take responsibility for how our city looks. And if the grass cutting and if the plantings aren't up to what we want our standard to be, then it's up to us to supplement that. They're providing the basic minimum. Look at State Road 40. That's a state road. There's a certain portion that's done, landscaping is done by and paid for by the state of Florida. The city of Ormond Beach hires a landscaping company to maintain their parks, their roads, and everything else. They've hired the company since 2012. And they have an actual landscaping company that takes care of that, and they've won awards for their beautification. So if we're going to go ahead and complain about the basic minimum of level, if we want a higher level, then we have to be responsible for that if we want to know how our gateways look. Because you're absolutely right, Commissioner Sukup, you get one chance to have that visual impact. So I'd like us to consider, and I mean, I know that our Parks Department is stretched to capacity, especially going into the next, part of this discussion, for the budget time, is it possible to go ahead and look at outside landscaping, not to necessarily do it for all of our parks or anything, but at least for our gateways, and go ahead and do that level of maintenance? I mean,
and get it reimbursed back.
Staff can do it. I mean, Jane can do a cost study.
Right, but it's a suggestion.
But
if we
many
don't,
of our, that's what I'm saying. Many of the corridors, the county, we have an agreement to take them over. So we totally maintain them. So it's a simple process.
and then hire somebody and hold that company accountable. Tell them what standard of you want, and then they have to come up to do that. Because to go ahead and hire more people in-house to do that, you have to. Our parks, our people are stretched to capacity in that, number one. And number two, I'd like to address what Mr. Voll said. And you're right, sir. We have a lot of really, really intelligent, skilled people that work here that live here in Deltona that are quiet about it. We have our level of our community is not as negative as everyone wants to paint it. I shouldn't say everyone, as it's been painted. And it's up to this city, it's up to us to tout our positive points and put those out there. If we only continue to say the negative, that's what everybody thinks of us. Why are we dumbing down the city? Why are we dumbing down the residents? I have a problem with that. Commissioner Bradford, you're right. Our workforce, that's, everybody needs more of a skilled workforce in the trades. I agree 100% with that. But it's up to the city itself to rebrand itself, which we've been trying to do, and go ahead and show what we do really, really well, which we do a lot of things really well. And there's a lot of hidden treasures and gems in this city that people don't know about.
But you cannot change what you don't acknowledge. And
That's true.
He kept talking about potential. Potential means nothing if you don't do anything. I was an athletic director for 10 years. I saw a lot of kids with potential. They did nothing with it. This city has 90,000 people in it. That's 90,000 purchasers that go into a business. Why are they not coming? That's what you got to ask yourself.
All right, Commissioner Bradford want to make a comment. We're going to move along.
Jerry, so you're looking for direction basically for an RFP to move forward your 5-year strategic plan or development plan is what I'm assuming we're here for, right? What I would like to do is direct staff to do what they have to so we can get an RFP for our 5-year strategic development plan. Anybody object to that? Oh, that's your job.
That's vague. That's too vague. I don't know.
We got off on a million other subjects.
His vision that he's given us.
But Jane, what do you need from us tonight to move this forward?
I actually really need some consensus. Right now, I'm getting a lot of different thoughts. The question is that do we feel that we want to hire a consultant? Do we want to issue an RFP to help guide us? Or do we think that it's premature, that we need to wait?
Well, we're already paying Team Volusia a sizable chunk of money, and I'm trying to meet you halfway, Brian. Is it possible that they can do some of this consultant work that Jerry's needing to help put this together as part of what we're already paying them? Can we at least ask that question if they can assist us with this before we go out to spend more money in this area? Because I'd rather put the money into the work.
We can always ask. I mean,
Jerry, what does Jerry have in mind?
A request for proposal direction from the commission costs the city nothing. We're simply asking consultants, what would it cost us to do the 5-year strategic economic development plan? And we have one that's 10 years old. In the presentation I made much earlier in the year, we talked about the need for one as part of site selectors looking at the city. When you don't have a strategic plan, you don't know where you're going, and they don't know where you're going.
So we can move along tonight, because I can see we're getting bogged down. Can you put together just a 1 or 2 page, give us an idea of what you're talking about? We're all over the place with a 5-year plan and going out to I want to see what's an end product going to look like. Show me one. Send us a copy of one so we could have some kind of idea to talk about intelligently. Because we're all over the place with education and beautification and infrastructure. What is it? We've got to have something. A strategic plan has a lot of elements to it. We've kicked around 8 or 10 here tonight that have a special interest to one or more of us. So what is exactly, why are we going to spend money on having somebody else come in here and tell us all the things that we've recognized as problems? Is there something we're missing?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there is. Site selectors, when they go to your website and they look and you don't have a formalized strategic plan and you haven't graded what you've done over the years to meet the goals of that plan, they look at your city and they say, there's a city that doesn't know where it's going or how it's going to even get there. Sir, we have one. We have one right now. Unfortunately, it's 10 years old.
It's not a working one.
So
here's a copy of one. If you can, the city I used to work in, Edgewater,
we have one.
An economic development strategic plan, and they review it every year with their council and their economic development board.
Right.
Get a copy of a couple of other cities so we can see this is what one has been used every year and working.
Mayor, if I could I suggest that we take the one that we have that exists.
That's what I was.
And have staff, maybe with the assistance of Team Volusia, go through it and redline some of the stuff that's in there and pencil in some of the suggestions. Plug those in if we need a couple of new chapters, at least title those chapters, and then I think we're going to have a comprehensive plan that the commission can look at and get an idea of what you're talking about for an end product.
Okay. And if excuse me, Commissioner Alcaraz would asking to speak for a minute. Let's kind of wrap this up though, because we need to look at that one that's out there.
To back up what Vice Mayor saying, doesn't Team Volusia have the expertise to do a strategic plan?
No, sir, I don't think they do.
They don't?
They are recruiters and marketers. They are not a consultant that bases itself on doing strategic plans. This is something that a consultant who does just this type of work does. That's what they do.
So they just do site selection. What else? What do they do?
They deal with site selectors and they do recruitment.
So they're like realtors in a way.
No, sir. Realtors basically list the property and try and market that piece of property. Team Volusia recruits in businesses to develop that piece of property after they have purchased it.
I just want to remind everybody that we have not created one job.
Get us
yet.
a copy of the current plan, Jerry, and I do believe that Vice Mayor had a good point. Team Belushi can give you some ideas of what's out of date. Remember when we talked about the last time and they told us this is not your niche market, this is this. Remember we went through all that? And I think that all of us need a refresher on that in Rice so we can look at it and review it. Because we're all over the map here tonight. So,
Mayor, if I may suggest is that why don't we go back? I will work with Jerry. We'll contact Team Belushi. We'll look at the current economic development plan, and then we will come back at a later date to you once we've had a chance to review those documents, have that dialogue, and then come back with a further presentation. And hopefully it will provide some focus.
Can I suggest that you go back and pull the RFP that was done for that document?
Commissioner Honecker, Commissioner Hertzberg both got the board lit up. I want to move on if there's something you got to add to that.
I want to move on too, but we're missing what a consultant brings to the table. You're asking the city manager, who is already as busy as can be, and Jerry Mays, who's already as busy as can be, coordinating and bringing all these economic developments to do to look at our strategic, red ink it and add this to it and come back to it. That's what a consultant does. He looks at plans
we
that
want
work.
to look at what's there first before we hire a consultant.
We hired a consultant for waste management, so we can't get a consultant for one of the most important plans of the city of Deltona is our strategic economic development. To me, that is like critical. And everybody up here is talking about Team Belushi, and we already said Team Belushi don't do that. I mean, you've obviously have some consultants in mind. You know, now we're almost back to directing staff on, doing their job. And I mean, to me, I'm getting the impression Jerry feels the consultant's the best way to do this, and here we're saying, no, we don't want you to do it our way. So I'm wanting to go with the way Jerry's suggestion. I feel that if you feel a consultant's the best way to do it, I'm in with whatever recommendation our staff has.
If you've seen a strategic plan that a consultant develops, it's graded every year, it's evaluated, what we did do, what we didn't do, and
we understand.
We haven't used ours in 10 years, so it's not anything to look at.
We're saying things over and over and over. The city manager just told us that she would pull the old documents, sit
I'm
down,
looking at it right now. You can pull it up online. I'm reading it right now as right here.
Right.
And when you look at this, it's in 4 parts, and it's definitely some of the things still stand. Other things are we have a CRA now. You really Jerry, what is are you?
Did we pay a consultant for that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and where did that get us?
Well, and that's the other part. That goes back to what Mitch says. You have to implement it.
Like you said, Brian, you got to execute.
Yeah. And this was a 5-year strategic economic plan done in 2007. 2007.
10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We had to stay with the plan. You can have a plan all day,
but you know what? In defense of that, Mayor, that was right right before the economy tanked. At that point, so a lot of these things that were looked for implementation, that it just wasn't there with the tank out of the economy. In defense of not going through with that plan back then, but now there's no excuse.
I have every bit of confidence that our manager and Jerry can take that plan. If that plan is useless and outdated, they can look at it. They can look at a plan from another local city that's done one recently. Give us an example of what you're looking at. The problem is when we bring it to us, I have no problem with hiring somebody if we need that. I just want to see what's out there, folks. That's not part of our agenda tonight.
I get it.
But it should have been here. I mean, I understand if I'd have had that, and you could look at it and you make some common sense, but I don't have the document in front of me. So yes, move forward. We're not telling you stop, slow down. We haven't put a roadblock in front of you, but just get me a copy of the old one and what you expect the new one to tell us.
Mitch, I'm not against bringing a consultant in to do this. I just need a little bit more information to see what I'm asking for.
Okay, Dan.
And I'm just asking us to allow them, whether they use a consultant or Team Belushi, to
let them move forward with it.
Let staff decide what they want to use that they feel is most viable.
Okay. All right. You guys have me under the gun.
Don't be frustrated, Jerry.
Yeah, don't get frustrated.
We'll get you there.
Mr. Manning, I'm going to turn me over to you.
Well, that's going to be a tough act to follow, huh?
Yeah. How's everybody doing? Good. All right. We had our capital improvements workshop back on April 24th with Marilyn Crotty. We had a really good turnout for that. There were a lot of issues brought up. City managers directed me to follow up with that with a slide PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll give you a cost estimate at the end, and we'll have some discussion. We're going to start with Van Park. Those of you that were there at that workshop know there was a big turnout from Van Park. Some of the issues they brought up, they talked about the bathroom, outdated. They talked about the scoreboards. They were having issues with scoreboards. They wanted a small playground included with the 2-bay swing set that's out there. They also would like to get the field lighting to LED lights and possibly replace that perimeter wood fencing that's been there since the park had been open. Those are some of the issues that we will address as we go forward. Harris-Saxon Park is another one. There's a large playground there that's 14 years old. It's becoming cost prohibitive to maintain. I'd like to replace that with a new playground that includes a pour-in-place surface, which provides ADA accessibility. We also want to incorporate into that some ADA accessibility apparatus similar to what we have at Thornby. An example of what I'm talking about, we just replaced the playground at Festival Park. I don't know if anybody's been down there recently. That has the pour-in-place surface. That is what we're looking to do to modernize all of our parks. We've started that process. We want to continue that as we go forward. Also, we want to replace the mulch that's on the smaller playground next to the building with PIP surface as well. Again, that provides ADA accessibility. The tennis and basketball courts will need to be replaced in the next 5 to 10 years. The tennis court prior to the basketball court, then the basketball court. At some point, we'd like to add lights to the basketball court if that's possible. And we also want to upgrade the cameras there. Those cameras were put in back in 2010. The infrastructure is in place. Those are on our analog system. As we are upgrading the cameras and adding cameras at our parks, we are going to the digital platform through our IT department. So that's another option we're looking to do. Firefighters Park, again, the playground is out of warranty there. Getting harder and harder to find parts to maintain, to replace. And when you do find the parts, the price is kind of costly, cost prohibitive. Again, the basketball court will need to be replaced. We'd like to add lights there as well. And again, one of the things that was mentioned at the workshop, most of these smaller parks don't have lights. Adding lights there will get more eyes on the park around the neighborhood. So we think that would be a good option. Again, replace the perimeter wood fencing with aluminum picket fencing. We've started that process at certain parks already. We've done it at West Cryle. We've done it at Harris-Saxon. We've done it at Dwight Hawkins. We want to continue that process. We also did it at Veterans and Dewey. Again, we want to standardize the look at each park. I think, and it seems we get good compliments, that the aluminum picket looks better than the perimeter wood fencing. Also, we want to add cameras there at some point in time. There's a lot of vandalism at that park. At nighttime, nobody's supposed to be in the park because it's closed at dark, but as the law enforcement will tell you, they're quite busy there at that park on a weekly basis. Dewey Boster Sports Complex. The playgrounds there were put in back in 2004, 2005, right after the park opened. At some point in time in this 5-year plan, we'd like to replace those as well. Again, it's a repetitive theme. Replace them with PIP surface to provide ADA accessibility. And once again, we're going to add ADA apparatus, similar to what we have at Thornby. It won't be as inclusive as Thornby, which is all-inclusive, but we will add that aspect to each park. At some point in time, the scoreboard on the football and soccer field, number 5, need to be replaced. The football field, for obvious reasons, used by our Pop Warner team, used by local high schools. That's been there since the park opened. We are starting to have issues with that one. And then as you see at the bottom thing, the other soccer fields, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, we are having issues between our youth soccer club and other youth soccer clubs. As anybody who's been involved in youth sports knows, parents like to get involved, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. The reason why we want to put scoreboards, small scoreboards, not big scoreboards, small scoreboards on each field is because a lot of parents keep their own time. They have a running clock in soccer. The parents from whichever league keeps time. If their team's losing, they think there's more time. If we put a scoreboard up there, that eliminates that problem. You got 45 minutes and a half, the clock runs down, that's it. And if you talk with our youth soccer people, that seems to be becoming more and more of an issue each season as they go against these other clubs. Timber Ridge Park, again, repetitive thing. The playground's out of warranty there. Want to put a PIP surface in. We just have a basketball court that will be coming online there in the next week or so. It's a regulation court, 94 by 50. It'll be our second court that is regulation, and we want to add cameras there as well. At the dog park, again, the playground's out of warranty there. We want to replace that with a PIP surface. We are proposing that the basketball court be replaced there in the next fiscal year. We'd like to add lights at some point because there is a lot of usage there as well on the basketball court, and we like to add cameras because that was another issue at our workshop. People want cameras at our facilities. It seems to make them feel safe. It also helps us with law enforcement if something does happen. Tom Hoffman Park, again, the playground, out of warranty. Want to replace it with a PIP surface. We had the perimeter wood fencing there. We want to replace that with aluminum picket fencing, and then we want to add cameras there as well. Festival Park, the dock and boardwalk will need to be replaced at some point in the next 5 years. I'd like to see a basketball court added out there with possibly some lights. We want to replace that perimeter wood fencing again with aluminum picket. We want to standardize the look at all of our parks. And we also want to add cameras there because we just put a new asset out there, the playground and the zip line, which I would strongly encourage you guys to go look at, check it out, take a ride. You're going to love it. That is that park. DuPont Lakes Park. We need to do a complete reconstruction of the basketball court. At some point, we like to add lights there. That park gets a lot of usage. Upgrade the current ball field lighting to energy-efficient LED lighting on Shea and True Field. There is a caveat there. Musco engineers are working on a retrofit. If they are able to retrofit with LED lights on those light banks with the current poles, that's a good thing. If they are not, that would increase the cost because they have to replace the poles as well. They're determining that right now. They're doing studies in this part of the country and other parts of the country trying to standardize what they're going to do. If they're able to retrofit with the current poles, that will lessen the cost on that. We also need to replace the little small storage shed that the seniors use on Shea Field for their equipment. The scoreboards on Shea and True will need to be replaced in the next 5 years, and we'd also like to add cameras there as well. West Cryle Park. The main one there is add LED lighting to the walking trail. That trail was put in back in 2008. It's a rubberized walking trail. It gets a ton of use. I don't know if you guys have been out there. Morning, noon, and night, people are walking that trail. We really think that would be an enhancement to that park. We're talking about putting a license plate camera at the front entrance. We seem to have issues there every once in a while. It seems to spike up with law enforcement issues. We think that will help us, law enforcement, and lessen some of the vandalism there. The basketball and tennis courts will need to be replaced in the next 5 years. At some point, we like to upgrade the tennis and basketball court lights also to LED. We want to lessen our carbon footprint and set an example for the residents. And we also want to upgrade the cameras there. We already have the infrastructure in place, but it's on the analog system. We like to upgrade it to our digital platform that IT has assisted us with. Campbell Park. We want to renovate the boardwalk and the gazebo. The boardwalk will be done in-house along with the 2-story overlook. The gazebo, we will do part of that, and then the roof will be done by a roofing contractor. The playground is out of warranty there. I know a commissioner mentioned possibly about putting a platform swing there for ADA accessibility. I'm looking into that with smaller manufacturers, not so much the major manufacturers. They seem to be going away from that because of liability. So we are looking into that. The tennis court was put in 2007 when the park was redone. So in the next 5 years, that will need to be replaced. We just replaced the basketball court 2 years ago. We'd like to add lights to that court if at all possible, and we definitely need cameras out there because we do have a lot of vandalism. Dwight Hawkins Park, we're going to replace the shade structure over the playground. We have a 3-bay swing set that was added a few years ago. We'd like to replace that with a PIP surface, possibly add a platform swing there as well, depending on the engineering. We want to clear the land adjacent to the sports field to allow parking. As you know, we are trying to make that a football-only facility for one of our youth leagues. We need to add a storage shed for equipment. At some point, we like to add lights to the basketball court as well. And then we would like to add cameras there as well because we'd have vandalism at that park as well. Manny Rodriguez Park. Again, we have a playground in there. We'd like to remove the mulch from there and put in PIP surface. We have a basketball court coming online in the next week, a brand new regulation 94 by 50 court. At some point, we'd like to add lights there as well. Again, we want to get eyes on the park. You do that with lights. We also want to replace that perimeter wood fencing with the aluminum picket fencing, standardizing what we have and what we've already started. And we'd also like to add cameras at some point. Security cameras. As I mentioned earlier, we'd like to add cameras at Dwight Hawkins, Manny Rodriguez, Campbell, Festival, DuPont, and Timber Ridge Parks in the next fiscal year. We'd also like to upgrade the camera systems at West Crowell Park, Harris-Saxon, Thornby, and the Community Center. To wrap this up, in the next 5 years, I'm going to give you some budget numbers for each year. In the fiscal year 2018, the proposed budget, at Van Park, we're looking at about $375,000. That's for the bathroom, the scoreboards, the playground, and the aluminum picket fencing. The LED lighting is not including that. Is something a few years down the road. At Campbell Park, we're looking at around $75,000 for the renovation of the boardwalk and the gazebo. The dog park, we're looking at $200,000 for the playground with the PIP surface and a complete reconstruction of the basketball court. At Harris-Saxon, we're looking at $315,000 for replacement of the playground with the PIP surface, including the ADA apparatus. DuPont Lakes, we're looking to replace the basketball court in the next fiscal year for $50,000. Dwight Hawkins, as I mentioned a moment ago, is $150,000 for clearing the land for the parking lot. And then the cameras for the upgrades and the addition to the parks mentioned below, $350,000. That's a big number, $1.5 million. Obviously, we're going to look at all funding options that are available for grants, FERDAP, ECHO, CBDG, wherever we can find grants, obviously. So I know that's a big number, but we're looking at options that are available for financing. 2019, DuPont Lakes, we have $150,000 for the upgrade of the lighting. As I mentioned a moment ago, that all depends on whether Musco engineers are allowed to retrofit the current poles that are out there with the fixtures that provide the coverage and safety and meet the current codes. If they can and we have to replace those existing poles, that's going to cost a little more money. Right now, for a ball field, you're probably looking at about $180,000 for lighting, including the poles. But if we're able to use those poles, that is the price that we got from our liaison. But again, that's a liaison. He's like a sales rep. Engineers tell you the real deal. West Crowell Park, $75,000 to add LED lights to the walking trail. Again, that park gets a lot of usage. At the other parks I mentioned before, on the smaller playgrounds where we have mulch, we want to replace that mulch with PIP to provide ADA access. At Festival and Manny, we want to replace the perimeter wood fencing with aluminum picket fencing. And then we want to finish our camera inventory in 2019 and add cameras at Lake Gleason, Firefighters, and Tom Hoffman Parks. If that goes through, then we will have eyes at all of our parks. Fiscal year 2020, Campbell Park, that playground's out of warranty, $200,000, again with the PIP surface. Tom Hoffman Park, $125,000, same thing. Firefighters Park, that basketball court will need to replace by the year 2020. Same thing at Dwight Hawkins. And Harris-Saxon, we want to replace the tennis court and Campbell Park as well. And then Dewey Boster on the baseball field, those 4 fields. If possible, we like to upgrade the ball field lighting to LED lights. Those are out of warranty. But again, it all depends on the Musco engineers on whether or not they are able to retrofit the current fixtures to include the new LEDs. Fiscal year 21, West Crowell Park. We need to replace the basketball and tennis courts and the playground. Playground was put in back in 2008. It's currently out of warranty now, but we still have access to parts. But as we go farther and farther, the more you get closer to 13 to 14, 15 years, it becomes harder and harder to find parts. Dewey Boster, same thing. Replace those playgrounds with the PIP surface. DuPont Lakes, we'd like to replace the scoreboards on Shea and Truefield. Dewey Boster, replace the football and soccer field 5 scoreboards, and then add scoreboards to soccer fields 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The other parks, if possible, I mentioned earlier about putting lights on the basketball courts. If we do that, that would be an option to consider. Firefighters Park, we need to replace that playground and the perimeter wood fencing with aluminum picket fencing. And fiscal year 2022, West Cryle Park, the tennis and basketball court lighting will be out of warranty. Again, this all depends on the retrofitting and the engineers. Same thing at Van Park. And then at Timber Ridge, we'd like to replace that playground. Our 5-year total proposed is $5.75 million. We're also exploring, like I mentioned before, as we replace these playgrounds and bring them online, ADA apparatus to include. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, before we get too started, give us a little poles, LED lighting. Why would you have to replace the entire pole?
They currently have candles on them now. When they replace those fixtures, they have the light bays that go across.
Right.
If the LED fixture is too heavy to support that current light fixture, we will not be able to use that pole. They are trying to standardize that throughout the country so everybody has the same, because other people are running into the same issue that we're running into.
The entire pole would have to be replaced.
Yes, that's correct.
Because of the bar.
Because it wouldn't, yeah, exactly,
Okay.
Yes. You're right, Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor is exactly correct, yes.
I'll be clear on that. And Commissioner Honecker, let's run through this quickly so we can have time to workshop, okay? I mean, your questions for him, and then we'll all get together.
Okay, questions for him, then we'll go, because I have a list, so we'll save that for the workshop. But my question is, in 2018, I mean, myself, I feel the shade over the Dwight Hawkins and the PIP surface for higher liability is more important than a basketball court at the dog park. Is there a reason you wanted to do the basketball court at the dog park before you do PIP surfacing, which is going to make it safer for our residents?
The basketball court at dog park is over 10 years old. Typically, outdoor basketball courts last 6 to 8 years, and then you need to replace them, and that's over 10 years old. That was original to the park, and that is more of a safety issue at this time than the Dwight Hawkins.
Okay.
Good job on resurfacing. Okay. Vice Mayor? Questions for Mark?
Mark, did you take into, or is there any estimate, did you take into account, or is there any estimate with the LED lighting, adding it to parks that don't have any, do we have any idea what that increase in the electric bill would be at putting all those other facilities online with the extra lighting? Do we have an estimate for that? Because that's going to be a reoccurring cost.
I have not done a complete estimate of all of the parks, no.
Okay, we would need to see that. I like what I heard you say about looking for other sources of money, eco impact fees, park impact fee money can probably be used for some of this stuff. What are we going to get the biggest bang for our buck? Well, lighting. Okay, lighting is going to help reduce some of our vandalism. Switching to the LED lighting is going to reduce the costs that we're having. Is there an economy, I don't know if this is you or Jane, is there an economy to do all of the lighting at one time across the board, because you're going to assemble the crews, that's going to be a contractor that comes in and just say, year one, we're going to light all of the parks. Have we looked at those numbers to do that?
Haven't got an actual estimate to do them all at once. We went with the phased approach, but I would agree that if you do an economies of scale and do them all at one time, it will probably be, it would lower the cost, I would imagine, because you're only mobilizing once.
Right. So I think there's an economy of scale in construction there, and then I think there's a big bang for security, reducing vandalism.
We looked at 2 issues with lighting and security cameras.
What? Is that your notes? Oh. I'm going to go way out on a limb here. Get an AED for him. Get an AED for him. I am willing to support finding $2.5 million out of contingency this year to kickstart this, in addition to whatever other funds you can come up with. Parks and Rec in this city has been neglected for too long. We have the largest juvenile population in the county. This is a key element in economic development, is providing a quality of life to our residents. The turnout at our events, the turnout for kids that sign up for sports programs in this community is phenomenal. I'm telling you all right now, I will support $2.5 million to come out of contingency to go into these capital improvements in the 2018 budget year to kickstart this, and so that people can actually see these improvements. We do the improvements in small increments, and nobody ever sees those. The only caveat I will put on that is, as part of that, it needs to be all of the lights, all of the cameras, and all of the fencing in the first year, because those all add to the security component, reducing the vandalism, and reducing our reoccurring cost of the lighting. Thank you, Mayor.
Question. All right, let's try to stay on track. Questions to Mark on his presentation. All these other things we'll bring up in a minute, and not to.
I'll be back. I'll be back after
Commissioner Bradford.
Yeah, I got a question on Keysville. Keysville Park, I believe that's the one they were talking about, the dog park. They were having problems with the fencing right now. Apparently there's holes in the fence, and they were talking about that. Is that going to be addressed? Because I'm still getting questions on when are we going to fix the fences and the damage to that park. I mean, little animals, these little puppies are very expensive, and I can understand their concern.
Yeah, you're talking about the holes in the fencing, where they're digging all the time. Yes, we try to do that at least once, sometimes every couple weeks, where we go fill those in. We try to get it every week. It's not an issue where the fence is damaged. Okay. It's where they're digging under the fence, and there's a little connection point sometimes.
Okay, so it's not that they're actually, because they're telling me there's holes in the fences.
Not that I saw when I was there last week. I didn't see any holes in the fences.
Okay. They're digging under them.
They're digging underneath it.
The big ones want to get to the little ones.
Little stinkers. Okay, and these are obviously only parks that we have existing. This doesn't include, is there any plans for any new parks coming in, such as a park that would be next to the center that we could actually use to make it a community center?
Not that I'm aware of. We didn't discuss that.
Not within the next 5 years.
I'm going to bring it up in a few minutes, so.
Thank you.
Right
okay, and that's why I was asking that I can add that. Okay.
Yeah, well, let's just get through his presentation questions, and then we'll go.
Great presentation, Mark.
Wide open.
Well, I didn't have a question on the presentation, just some things that I think should be in there that are not there.
Right. We're going to get to that in just a minute, okay? Commissioner Hertzberg on the presentation.
Thank you. Mark, just a couple of questions. Which parks get the most use that you see, or do they all get equal use that you are seeing a priority? Or is that how you prioritized for like 2018 and so forth, or did you try to touch on everything here and there? That's one question. And the other question I have is regarding vandalism. I know that you've said, I'm all for exactly what the Vice Mayor said. If we're going to do that, we need to do the cameras and everything all at once. Those were my two questions. And also regarding Firefighters Park, on your presentation you have that with cameras going in 2019, and with the amount of vandalism that's there, I'd like to see that possibly moved up. And I just want to state I agree with what the Vice Mayor says, and I'll save the rest of my comments.
All right, Commissioner Sukup.
Well, I guess my only one on the presentation right now is we talked about alternative funding sources. 2 months ago, I asked for a workshop on echo money. Do we have a date set for when we're going to start talking about echo money and why a lot of our projects have not been applied for? And because I'm looking through this list, and I would think most of this would qualify.
Well, if you want a workshop, I can schedule a workshop. We have a lot of dates that I've already taken.
Two months ago,
your comment was that you wanted echo funds brought up when we talked about the park CIP. It is being brought up now.
No. I asked in our closing comments. I made a motion to have a workshop on echo money. There's a lot of questions that I have with them. Why we have not applied for them on multiple projects, where we can go with it, the opportunities we can pull out of echo money, why this county has. There's a bunch of numbers there that I
saw that report that you asked for. That was
at a meeting, and we were supposed to get a workshop, and I have not. I've been patiently waiting, and I still haven't seen it.
Well, I'm not going to get in the middle of that, but we need to discuss echo on every project we do that qualifies for it, period.
Without a doubt.
It should be every new idea, like the new idea he just had, that could very easily be a security, safety, parks. You know, maybe you could get matching money or half of that, your proposal. Anyway, we're not into that. But on his presentation, did you have a specific question on that?
Well, because the thing is, like you said, this is going to cost money to do. So it's just one of those things that we have
to get the money for
25,000 kids. All this is important. I just want to make sure that we're doing it fiscally responsible.
Okay, Commissioner Honecker, you had a question on the...
I did on the presentation on West Cryle. You said the trails lighting. Did you look at solar-powered lighting for that trail?
It's treed.
Okay. No, it's treed, but it's a matter of putting the solar-powered lights in the right place along the treed trail with the trees trimmed away.
We did not look at solar power. We looked at LED lighting. The light study that we did emphasized
solar.
LED.
Okay, if I can interrupt just for a second. We did solar at the Vets Park, remember?
Yes.
They are useless. They're absolutely useless for trails, yes. You go down and you see two beautiful ones there. I call it Obama money. I don't mean to be nasty, but there was a grant that came in with some Obama stuff, and those lights lasted maybe 6 months, and then the battery started going, and they're just, I've never seen it for trail lighting. It won't work for that.
Commissioner Honecker, you get more bang for your buck with the LED lighting right now than you do with solar.
The only question I had on the proposal, and it's not really, I guess I'm going to ask if you agree. We've had some discussions from this commission, and the direction is really hard to pin down. But if we're going to do some stuff, we talked about DuPont Lakes Park selling it. We talked about selling a festival park. If this commission is serious about that, we got to think about putting money in them. Now, Van Park, there's a big chunk of money you got planned for Van Park, as I see it. New bathrooms and everything there. Have you looked into whether that's even possible? There is requirements that are going to have to be met at Van Park. That was built so long ago, and I got some real concerns about anything there when we start getting into what the county did years ago when they built that third field. Because that's in a lake. There was a lake there that I fished myself in the 80s.
Which is the third field you're referring to?
Well, it's the one to the left as you drive in.
The softball field?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually fished in that lake. I think Jerry's been out there too. When they came in, for years we tried, before we were a city, to get permission to build there. They wouldn't. And then all of a sudden they came in and they built a field on there when they had a program going on out there for girls softball. When we start doing any work out there, before you do anything, I'd make darn sure that we have, we own it now and all, but I don't know that you're going to get permits the way that water line is and everything else that's at that park. And then I'll lead us into another discussion. Normally I wait.
Because I still had the floor and I wasn't finished with my questions.
I'm sorry. I thought that was it.
Chilled water fountains you briefed. Did you get a cost estimate?
You're talking about adding one to the Dwight Hawkins restroom when it goes in?
Dwight Hawkins, any park. Did you get a cost estimate on chilled water fountains?
They're about $700, $800 to put them in. However, I wouldn't recommend you put those in, especially at Dwight Hawkins right now, until we get the cameras in there.
Cameras, yes.
Because of the vandalism.
We had a cost.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And then just comment on what he briefed on the zip line. If you haven't gone to Festival Park yet, it's a great zip line. I didn't ride it because it's for little kids, but I walked the handle down and I watched some families using it. I mean, after they opened up, there was 3 families, 7 kids there using the zip line and the playground, and they were just thrilled to death.
All right. The thing I want to bring up is we need to do some serious thinking before we start putting money in these parks. And I do want to throw out that if there's going to be any consideration by anybody tonight on spending all that money for Van Park, that park is old, tired, and I don't know if we're just putting lipstick on a pig, so to speak, or not. I would rather see us invest that kind of money and then go for a big Elko grant And I don't mean build a Sanford, thing for tournaments and all that, but build a good ball field somewhere. There's no roads, there's nothing there. It's a slipshod field at best. It's made do for 50 years. It's time we upgrade baseball. We went wild with soccer. We ignored them because we had ignored soccer for so long. But we need a baseball complex of some.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go with that.
Well, okay, I'm just opening up. You guys go to.
Can I say something for you,
Can I ask
Commissioner
another
Sukup?
question in reference to his presentation?
You don't need the buttons. Let's just talk like a workshop. I can't stand this button stuff.
West Cryle Park.
If Mayor, on your thing about building a new quad basically for baseball,
yeah.
If we're going to do that, then I would strongly urge that we have one baseball league. We have two right now. If you're going to do something like that, that would be something you guys would need to look at to merge them into one. They fall under one banner, either Deltona Little League or Dixie Baseball.
Where'd this come from? Me.
I have a question about West Cryle Park, and this is probably going to be a controversy, so guys, don't throw nothing at me. Why are we adding a license plate camera to West Cryle Park?
What are you doing?
Giving this one to the clerk for the record.
Oh.
We would like to get them. We do have vandalism out there. We do have issues out there. There has been some criminal activity, and the cops have requested that we provide that to them.
Okay, so is this park, would you say amongst all the parks, then does this park have the highest amount of crime going on? Is that why they're putting it there? Because I know these cameras are expensive, and I'm just thinking if we're going to put a license plate camera, that it would be in a high traffic area. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay, we call it a license plate camera, but it's going to be a camera at the front of the park. It's going to shoot down to the entrance. It will catch your license plate, but it will also catch vehicle descriptions.
It's not like the sheriff.
It's not a zoomed in one like you see on Providence that the sheriff's office has.
It's not a tag reader that the sheriff has.
It's not a tag reader.
It's not a tag reader. We call it that. That's what we call it internally.
Thank you.
But as for the crime,
okay, well, one question.
I'm sorry.
So you're talking about a constant running camera that's going to be every car that comes in there.
Yes.
That's going to cause us more problems than a tags reader. I'm just saying. Okay,
and that's where I was trying to go with all this. When I was looking at all these numbers, I'm saying the same thing. Let's say you have a car.
You're next. Go ahead.
You have a car and it's got 75,000 miles, and you know that you're going to have to start doing a lot of repairs on the car. When does it get to the point where it's just better to buy a new car? Van Park, and majority of these people that were here that day were from Van Park. So I thank them for showing up, but I think they're screaming out more of it's time for a new facility. We talked about, at one point since I've been here, selling DuPont. We talked about getting rid of Van Park. If you know the way that things are going nowadays is by building quads. They're more efficient. You can run leagues. You can run programs off of those. And I believe it's finding a place where you can build some quads all in one area that makes sense. We all know where I stand with the Casey property because I believe that was the perfect place. It's right off of the community center. It's right off of I-4, easy access. We all know where I stand on that because I believe that would be a phenomenal place to consolidate everything. With that being said, you're still looking at down the road, no matter what happens. I still think you need to take care of these fields. You mentioned West Cryle. I think everyone should drive by West Cryle in the afternoon because it's a zoo. It is a zoo. There are a ton of people out there. On the outside courts, on the baseball fields, on the playgrounds, in the racquetball courts, inside the gymnasium. Another thing that wasn't on here that I would love to see on here is an outside water fountain by the courts. Because if you play on the outside courts, you have to go all the way inside to drink water at West Cryle. And when you're talking about usage, I would think that and Dewey are our two most highly used facilities we got, and majority of that is outside basketball and outside baseball, which are running around. And trust me, it'd be nice to have, because that building's not always open, so you can get in and get water. So I would love to see more water fountains put into these places, but I would still like us to seriously consider relocating our sports parks into one we keep talking, you talked about it earlier today. You talked about it downtown. You talked about our Howland Boulevard is still going to be that road. It's the only place I think we can make it. We just spent $9 million on a senior center / event center over here. I think everybody and every organization that's involved in athletics around here, if you say, listen, here's what the goal is, to put this type of location here with this type of facilities, now let's go chase the money. I still think that's the way to go because, you're looking at a lot of money in 5 years, putting lipstick in a pig, as you said, but it's got, look, these kids that were here, they deserve it. They deserve it. They deserve these things. But I still, instead of doing things twice, I just wish we would do it right the first time and build them a facility that's proper. I'm looking at Mitch's thing right now. He's talking about disc golf on a property like a Casey property where you could have disc golf set up outside of perimeter. You can have a green space to do carnival. Dewey's not the place to do 4th of July fireworks. It's just not. We need a place where we can get the community together that's easy to get in, easy to get out, easy to watch things. And
sir, I need you to take a break. Just make a motion to extend the meeting 30 minutes, or is there an objection to a 30-minute extension?
I'll second it.
Well, we don't really need a motion. Is there any objection to? Okay, we're going to extend it 30 more minutes, and then we're going to call it. 30 minutes is fine. Go ahead, sir.
And that's just what I'm going with. Because we talked about a stadium, everyone thinks that we're talking about. Listen. The first and foremost thing that we have going in the city is baseball. And so we don't even have softball, really. It's softball, all goes over to DeBerry. Our baseball players are going over to DeBerry right now. Our basketball players are going to DeLand. We're losing our community to go outside and play in other cities because of our facilities, because of our programs. We need to upgrade these facilities. And we're not talking, like the mayor said, not a Seminole County $26 million complex. It's not what we're talking about. But consolidate the 2 leagues, put them in a nice facility, make sure and build around there. That's our athletic facility. I just believe that's the way to do it. So
what happened to the plan of doing something down on Section Line? We had talked about that.
The problem with Section Line is we talk about everything you do should generate something. That large piece of land that we have down there, there's no room for economic development anywhere around it, and you're smack dab in the middle of the houses.
Section Line, Alexander, you mean?
The one off of Normandy.
Yeah.
So the 140, 120 acres. And that's why I agree with Mitch. I say you slap Public Works out there and use and sell our Public Works Department. But
okay, I just want, I agree with you on the Casey thing. I was right on that. I got a little bit of a problem with what happened, but I still think that's the best place for it. I want to get Mr. Honecker, Commissioner Honecker in here, but I do want to tell you something. I don't know if any of you are aware of it. I found this out Friday night at a different dinner I was at representing the city, but DeBerry is in the planning stages for a $12 million, which kind of shocked me. The cost, 40-some thousand square feet basketball indoor type event. But I just wanted.
They're taking our kids, Seminole County State.
I'm just saying. I don't know if you know about it, but that's DeBerry. So, Commissioner Honecker, you've got a big, long list here.
I do, and I'll be really quick because I like what Mark hit on because it's what the residents said. Maintenance of the parks, and upkeep of the parks is great, but we didn't look at possibilities of other simple things. Like, did you know at Festival Park? And I know where he's thinking about putting a basketball court, and I'm against it. There's a grassy field right across from the playground. They just put in across the dirt road, which should be graveled or paved, by the way. But we won't go there.
You're talking real fast, and I'm not following you.
At Festival Park. Okay. The first thing, a spray showers. It's like a giant water fountain with a spray thing for the kids. Okay. So easy to put in spray showers there. Let the water run off. Pipe it down to the reservoir, right to the retention pond. Anyway, we need to get involved with something with the water. It's a big draw on businesses coming here. Economic development is ecotourism. You can do paddle, board, canoe, kayak, launch site right at Lake Monroe, developing a paddle trail that goes up St. Johns River. These things should be looked at, and joining the Florida Paddling Trails Association. I think our portion is called Blue Ways or something. But all the Southeast Blue people were in on it. We could do that.
All through all these, or what?
Fishing.
These are all ideas.
These are all just ideas, things we didn't look at, or possibilities. A fitness trail. We're putting trails in. Plenty of cities have little workout stations along the trail, fitness trail. The residents love it. An adventure course for the kids climbing the ropes up. Things we need to look at. New ideas, not just redoing our ballparks. That's all for sports. What about families that just want to go out and have fun with their kids? And tell me something, they can't because, oh, you have to reserve that field, you can't use it. Oh, you have to reserve that, you can't use it. They just want to go out and have fun. We didn't give any thought to this model aircraft competition we could do. Bob would probably sign up for those model airplanes, but something we can host. Daytona Beach hosted these remote control boats from all these different nations. Only 9 nations showed up, Emeryville and everything. I read about it in the paper, but we could host model aircraft competition. Things we don't do, disc golf, something for the seniors, and Wi-Fi hotspots. We could do that now at some of our parks to draw in the kids and the families, the parents that take their kids there. They have their iPads and they're watching their kids. We need Wi-Fi hotspots. It's easy to do. And then the bandstand, the city manager told me today that's part of their future plans for the center, but that center needs a bandstand there so we can have that concert, and we can have that meeting area that you want out there, especially with what's going on with the library. And then think about shaded areas for some of our basketball courts, just in some picnic tables and some shade over there. It's not big shaded areas, but shaded areas where they can take a break and watch the kids play ball and stuff and use their hotspots and their iPads.
All right.
Okay.
Commissioner Alcantara.
Campbell Park, the redoing the boardwalk. Can we make sure that sealed wood?
Yes, we're replacing. Yes, yes.
All right, that was a big issue, and then some wood being loose and nails being exposed.
It's all going to be redone.
Right. What time does that park close?
Closes at sunset usually.
Sunset.
Yeah.
So what's the need for the lights at the basketball courts? Because I know West College closes at 9:45.
That's an option to get more eyes on the park if that's something you guys want to do, because that was mentioned at the public work the forum that they wanted more lights at the park and get more eyes on the park. So if that's something we could possibly do, if we were to get lights at the park, we'd extend the hours at that park.
Then I went to Bank Park, and I hear it seems like some of you have ideas of maybe even building a new ballpark, but we still need to address Bank Park because that's all ideas. We haven't done anything with that. So I saw a lot of issues when I went there, catch the kids play, that I don't see on here. The parking lot, when you go into the parking lot, it's sand all over the place, dust all over the place. We need to pave that. If we're going to keep the park.
I don't believe we'd be allowed to pave that because it's in the wetlands. I don't think St. John's would permit something like that.
Can it be?
No, we've talked about this for 20 years.
What can be done about the parking lot?
We typically drag it every week, a week and a half, and when it's raining, we try to get it at least once a week. But paving the park, we looked at that option many years ago, and St. John's would not permit that.
Then another issue was fields, unleveled fields, especially the smaller one, the T-ball field. And you have, that's in my safety risk, in my opinion, because you have these little kids playing ball, tripping because the ground's not straight.
I don't know that it's uneven. I think there is a flooding issue on the T-ball field. I don't want to cast aspersions, but when the volunteers, before the city became a city, did some work out there that was not really allowed, there seems to be an issue with there. We've addressed the other 3 fields with the flooding issue, the softball field, the senior field, and Little League field. We're working on putting some type of French drain inside that field to help with the flooding, because the water has been redirected from the 3 springs at the top, and they flow right down into right field on the T-ball field. We're trying to address that issue.
And then they have a outdoor fountain there, but they told me that one of the issues they have is that sometimes the pipe gets broken and they have to wait. They don't have water. They have to wait for it to, because the pipe is plastic on the fountain instead of metal.
The pedestals, yes. They get broken quite a bit. That's why we have the cameras there now. Those are operational. We're hoping to catch those. We try to replace those within 24 to 48 hours once we are notified. If it happens on a weekend, usually I don't get a call from the president till late Sunday night or Monday, and we try to get that.
What are they breaking? Is it the pipes or
bats?
They're taking bats and taking the pedestal pipe and just swinging away.
But those are plastic pipes that I saw plastic, a PVC pipe.
They are now. Originally, they were pedestal water fountains, but they would constantly take bats to those, so we replaced those with the plastic PVC pipes, yes, because it becomes cost prohibitive to keep replacing pedestal water fountains, which is another reason why we don't do the chilled water fountain anymore, because they destroyed that numerous times as well that was on the bathroom.
Is there a way to have the fountain base covered somehow or locked or something like that, like in having it enclosed so that
we used to have it that way down there. What they did was then they filled sand up. We had a concrete post about that big around with a silver globe in there with a bubbler. Then they poured it full of sand and filled it. Then they've tried a lot down there. That's
one of the things we're going to try on one of those water fountains that keeps getting destroyed is putting a concrete water fountain out there, which we've done at other parks, and we want to see how that goes.
How big is that park?
I'm sorry?
How big do you know is Van Park? Like acreage?
I don't know right offhand. I want to say 10 acres maybe?
It's 8
to 10, somewhere in that range.
So like I'm hearing that some of you guys have ideas to possibly build it. Like where would we build it?
Well, that's what we were talking about. You'd have to buy land, or unless we use the portion of the water company land was down off Alexander, but it's not sufficient for what we want to do. So we're back to a piece of property like the Casey's or D Ranch that Jerry talked about, or something else. You'd have to find another location for it.
Then what? You skipped one, but Fishing Pier, I had that. I would like to see us put in floating docks. This was an idea that I got from a resident there across from Thornby Park on Lake Monroe, having a dock extend out, a floating dock out there, and so we can take advantage of the lake, because we really don't take much advantage of that lake.
The mayor did say we do have that at the community center at the boat ramp at Lake Monroe. There is a floating dock there.
The thin ones on the two.
You're talking about going out like a pier.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not that. No.
You would have to do some fantastic permitting to get that done. But I thought about that, talked about that for years. I don't know that because it's a navigable waterway, you'd have to go through Game and Freshwater Commission, the state, everybody else. But it's worth looking into. We've never been turned out because we never got that far. We were told many times in the years it couldn't be done with the county. I don't know if we ever tried. Did we ever try as a city? I don't think we ever did we? Try to negotiate with the state about a fishing pier? I guess when we move the center, though, that would be something that come up in the next year or two, what you're going to do with the existing building, and I think a lot of what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's all about possibilities.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of possibilities would be down there at the lake that you could do, but that would be something that maybe a letter right now. What are the steps we take to what the commissioner's talking about? We're talking about a pier, fishing dock out there. What steps do we have to take? There used to be one out there years ago down by the Braddock House, and it's all been torn down and gone for 40 years.
It seems like I think that most of us, all of us, feel that something needs to be done about baseball field and the fields. What is it, the All-Star League that are playing on at Van Park? The All-Star League, I think.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Deltona Little League.
Deltona Little League at Van Park, yes.
So, I mean, we need to do something. So whether it's building a new park or whether it's bringing Van Park up to date, whatever the case may be, something needs to be done, and we shouldn't delay it and push it off, because a lot of times things are delayed for one reason or another. So we need to get the ball rolling on it.
All right, Commissioner Hertzberg, you got something?
Thank you, Mayor. So,
just jump in.
Looking at just a couple of things, very good presentation. Number one, I don't see any indication or comment about two things that are very, to me, important, and that is the landscaping around the exterior of the parks and signage to get to the parks. When you go to Van Park, there's nothing there. The way into Van Park, the sidewalk, the entrance is horrible. There is absolutely no signage for our winding roads to any of these parks where you have to go that are in the interior of the city. And I feel like if we're going to go ahead and put this kind of money into our parks and showcase them, then we need to do the land. I mean, if you go on the outside of Dewey, down Saxon, it's really not attractive. And if we're going to tell the city and the residents to clean up, we need to put money into the parks and do the exterior. And I'm not placing blame on anybody. It's been that way for a long time, and I know we're stretched thin. But again, like Commissioner Sukup said prior, you get one chance to make an impression, one chance to make that visual impression. And if we're going to put that money in there, I'm going to really, really promote signage, directional signage, and outside landscaping. That's really important in my perspective. Second, cameras. We've heard over and over with the vandalism in a lot of these parks. To me, that should be a priority. Every park that we have needs to have their camera systems updated and centralized, and that really has to be done. Looking at both a new complex and the community center, just breezing through the ECHO grant money, you really need to have, for the ECHO grant, it really has to be very, very thought out and very specific. They're not going to let you do things if you don't show the proper hours, you don't show the financing, you don't show maintenance, especially. Maintenance. So anything that, I feel like the old community center and some of the ideas brought forward are great. We could look for an ECHO grant to build that out and do another phase of that. And for a large complex, and to be honest with you, the Casey property, it's a great location. I'm not really a fan of how it went down last time, and my view on it is Mr. Casey can't sell it. He can't sell it for what he wants to sell it for, which is about anything. He's just not selling it. So now it's come back to us. Do we want to buy it? And if we decide to do something like that, no matter where we do a large complex, we really need to look at two things, an ECHO grant and a bond. If you're going to go ahead and take that kind of property and spend $3 million on a piece of land, then you're going to go ahead and need to build it out right, and bond it. Because we don't have the money to buy, to do all this maintenance and then to go ahead and purchase another piece of property and do that. And what troubles me about the whole thing is when you're looking at how we've let these parks degrade and not put money into maintenance, and you want to go ahead and do another large complex 5 years down the road, are we going to not put money into maintenance there either? So we have to commit realistically to a maintenance plan for what we have here, which looks really good, and anything else that we do, whether it be the old community center. And I'm going to guess the DCC that you had in there is Deltona Community Center. All right, you got it. We can figure it out. And definitely have a maintenance plan. And money has to be there for that, because it does us no good to put up a show place and then not maintain it. And the other thing, and you guys can just boo me and shut me up, I don't understand, again, why when we're looking at all this maintenance, why are we putting another park in when we need, for another $125,000, we're putting another park in when we have all these that need work. I'm not anti that. I'm just looking at taking, those $125,000 that we're putting into that new park, when we need all this other maintenance. And is that the maintenance of that park and everything, that's going to be another added thing. So I'm all for doing a large complex. I think we need it. The residents deserve it, and maintaining what we have here. But if we're going to do it right.
You're talking about that $125,000 for the park in District 5?
Yes,
They have no park. It's in District 5, and they have no park.
There's no park at all in District 5?
There's no parks in District 5. They need at least one little pocket park.
We've already,
is that the one you're talking about?
That's already been approved.
Yeah, I know it's been approved and everything. It's just, I guess.
I understand what you're saying. I agree with you somewhat, but that's it.
Is there
Commissioner Radford, do you have a comment you want to throw in?
Yeah, I've actually written it out because I tend to get distracted and overpassionate. So bear with me while I read this. And what I would like to see, and let me explain where I'm going with everything I'm going to talk about, is right now we have an event center located off of Howland Boulevard. What I would like to see is that event center turned into a community center, okay? And to do that, and I'll go ahead and read, is what I'd like to see is our public places, our streets, our plazas, our squares, our green spaces, they belong to all of us. They are all of our commonwealth. The most important aspect of every city is how we treat the public realm demonstrates on how we value value you guys all as fellow citizens in our community. If we treasure our plazas and our main squares as beautiful places for community festivals and celebrations, we're embracing our unity and the power of our shared identity as a city. If we hold daily farmers markets on a square next to our community center, government representatives can demonstrate that they value the public's dialogue and the city engagement flourishes. If we can have lively, hospitable neighborhood plazas, we can exhibit like our social life. We can have a place where we can go. That includes having a park next to the community center. That involves having a farmer's market next to the community center. You know, biking trails. Use the community center as the catalyst of the center of the city, and have, like Mitch, you have on here, have a fitness and bike trail that goes from the community center to the YMCA, to the Halifax Hospital, to the other districts, and connect it to the trails and to the other parks, and use it as a catalyst to connect our city with the others, connect our parks, connect it, and make it a place for all of our residents to use. Right now, it's only going to be used for events. What I'd like to see is I would like to see it taken out, as it was voted on a couple years ago, as a community center. That means a community garden. That means a park for our children, a park for our seniors, a park for our vets, a park where our seniors and kids can work together. And I think it can easily be done. Our trails, we all know that, I think it was Winter Springs was built on the aspect of their trails and their parks. That's what built Winter Springs. People came there for the biking trails, the hiking trails. And if we can use that to connect the community center to the library, the community center to the city hall, the community center in that area, we're now using it, and it's like
the center, right? You're
the
not talking
new
about the
community,
old.
the center,
Okay.
the events center, and I want to make it a community center. And the only way we're going to make it a community center is by taking the adjacent property next to it and making it something that the residents can use, to make it that place where we can have the farmers market, to make it that place where we can have an events lawn, to make it that place where residents can go. They don't have to pay. You know, like she said, if we want to go there, we got to pay for everything. Well, you know, let's say I just want to take my kids and ride my bike somewhere. Where am I going to ride my bike to? You know, this way we have the trails, it leads. You can have a fitness trail and path that leads to the other areas. I know, Mitch, you would ask, somebody asked about the YMCA. I know there was a discussion of having a partnership with the YMCA where we do a basketball court next to the YMCA. Well, this connects to that. Have it connect from here over there and have a trail, bike trail, walking trail, hiking trail. And I think trails will bring economic development. It's been done in other cities. It's worked. And, you know, I say if it's not broke, don't fix it.
All right. We got approximately 10 minutes left, and I want to say something. We're all over the charts. I'll let you guys go. Really what we're here for is a capital improvements program based on the thing that happened. So I think Mark's presentation talked about what they want to do over the next 5 years. I think we all are in agreement that we want the concerns that were established by the public, namely Van Park, addressed as best we can. The question, I think, right now with the center is one, with Commissioner Supik and I both agree. You know, I mean, you threw out an idea, which is great too, but that's, you know, nobody has any real problem with the capital improvement plan as presented, right? I mean, we have some variations, but
just if we're spending money, if we're doing it twice.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So that's what I'm getting at. So would we agree that, or disagree, because he's asked, you brought it up earlier, will you make a flat out offer to Mr. You know, you threw out something, so I'm going to throw out something. I feel that Commissioner Hertzberg mentioned it, you mentioned it, I'd make an offer of him for $3 million for the property right now, cash offer, use the funds, then sit down and try to address all these other concerns we have in a holistic way.
You're taking us in a direction.
Well, let me just wait a second.
That we have 10 minutes and we need to discuss.
That's what I'm saying.
Put it on a workshop.
I don't want them to do it tonight, but I'm saying the capital improvement plan if we approve it with the conditions that there's a potential to discuss this more in depth.
But like he's saying, Van Park needs to be addressed at some level to get it up the park.
Yeah, get it up.
But moving forward in the future of the parks, without a doubt. But I also want to remind everybody, we keep talking about being double taxed. We need to get in on these schools, on these school facilities, and partner with the schools and build and grow their facilities where we have access to them. So.
They don't want to do that for liability reasons.
They can do that. But
they can. They're trying to. Go ahead.
No, I just was going to kind of go where you were going, and that is these things that Mark has presented us tonight is what came out of that public forum, and we need to address that. We promised those folks that we would put together a plan with what came out of that meeting. Not to say that what Mitch has got and what Brian's got, and I don't want to build another park until we can get the ones that we've got up to speed. Now, it may be that we do away with Van Park. We make a decision.
Shut down a couple of the
we may do that, okay, and that's part of that process. But I want to check off a lot of the things, scoreboards, drinking fountains, cameras, lighting. I want to check off a lot of those items that the people have brought to us and get them fixed. And again, I'll reiterate, we've made Parks and Rec take a back seat to the rest of the budget and all the cuts that have been made over the last several years. It's time to infuse some big money into getting these things caught up, cleaned up, so that the parks that we have are usable. Then we can plan to go forward with the new stuff.
But I think that's where we're getting to the point is you're talking about putting a bunch of capital into this and correcting these when we're saying, woo, tap the brakes. Let's put a lipstick on it for a second, make sure it's playable much better, but let's show them the vision we got for them down the road over here.
Scoreboards. Instead of us buying them, you got.
Look at 2018. We got 10 minutes left, and can we agree that 2018 move forward to that budget thing? That gives us time to look at 19, 20, and
that's
the years out.
That's what I'm getting at. Some of us won't be here, but I'm saying move forward. But if there is discussion here, no decision, but discussion, Mark and Jane, that we don't want to keep putting good money after bad in some of this older park especially. But we owe them a design, a plan, so they know what's coming, so they'll better understand what we're doing. They were loud and clear. Now, I've had 50 years experience with that park, and that park, there's so many things that cannot be done there to make it even worthwhile for the Little League. So I'm for building a new one. I'm for, going outside the box and doing what we got to do. But build them something to the level of Dewey Boster. And the Dewey Boster baseball field, the drainage there out on Saxon, there's a lot of things that we could do there. And I know what you said about one league. I don't think we can dictate what the leagues do, but we can provide the facility. And then it's up to them whether they merge or go their separate ways or whatever. I don't like to get into that end of their business, but
so if they go with 2018, that gives us time because the things you're talking about.
Does anybody have a problem with 18?
No. And the things you're talking about, and I've seen other cities do this, and it works because you're talking about. He said $2.5 million for lighting. If you design a sports complex, I've seen other cities design a whistle-stop park and all their park renovations because it costs millions. Design the sports complex. All your parks, lighting, fencing, security, come up with one plan and brief that plan to your residents and then put it to a road of referendum. This is what it's going to cost. Do you want to bond out? Because this is a loan. This is money you're talking about. And she's talking about bonding out. The residents need to have the say-so in this. Do you want to bond out for this much money to do a sports complex and all lighting, fencing, security? Why do you want to spend all that money out of our $2.5 million out of this and that? That gives us time. Do this 2018. Design your sports complex. Put it on a voter referendum along with those lighting, fencing, security, and see if the voters want to spend that kind of money. Because they want all this, but it costs money. Let them vote on it.
Well, let them vote then on spending $3.3 million on
that was just
a park. I'm just saying on a park or a business complex that brings jobs. Okay, so it's okay to spend $3.3 million on a park, but it's not okay to spend $3.3 million on a business park that's going to bring jobs.
Let's stick with the CIP. This is a voter referendum for residents.
We're not advocating a referendum right now. Is there anyone else in the public who wants to speak concerning this? All right.
On the cameras, just a thought. I was looking at the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, and they pay their sheriffs between $13 to $25 an hour. These cameras, and I've seen them in your budgets in prior years, are about $40,000 a piece. If you do the math, instead of buying cameras and putting cops out of jobs, let's hire a police officer, put them at the park, which is a better deterrent to all these vandalisms, and it's going to cost less or about the same as $40,000 for a camera. Just a thought.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So, Mayor,
it's very evident that we, pardon me?
Could you sum up, I'm sorry, the direction that this commission?
Well, I think what we want to do is we want the public's, yeah, we want their criticisms or their concerns addressed for maintenance, and we use a term which is probably not really very nice, but we keep putting lipstick on it. We got to stop. We want it cleaned up now. We want them to operate their season, to be able to have a park that's safe and whatever. All the things like, chilled water, extra piers, docking, all that stuff can come later. But it's very evident that we need to sit and talk about parks. And I'm going to bring something up as we close. This system is not conducive workshop-wise, period. I've said it before and I'm saying it again. We need to be sitting around, we can look at one another and talk about this, because what happens is this machine, God love it or not, it goes on, and by the time you just said it tonight, reminded me again. You have to write notes, because, please, I'll say Commissioner A talks about chicken soup, and Commissioner B wants to say something in relation to chicken soup, and we get off the subject. We're talking all over. We had a million ideas here. They're all good, but we don't get a chance to really bring it back together. We've got to sit down in a circle, and I know the openness and the public likes it, but the public's not showing up.
Yeah, but we could do it right here. We could put tables.
Yes, but you can't move with the cameras and all that stuff. I mean, it's
cameras show the whole thing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we do have cameras. No, I don't care about the cameras. We can move it on the floor. I don't care, but this does not work this way. It's not working.
Well, let's set it up down there.
It's big and open.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not saying go upstairs. I agree, but I can't. This thing is useless to me. I can't. I'd rather see you. I rather had the frustrations. Who was here a long time? The frustrations we used to have with people who you ignored me. I'd put up with that before putting up with this. Okay. Because every one of you that speak have good ideas, but I can never respond. Mm-hmm. She can't respond. She's got to write notes. This system's not working, folks.
In the middle. It's big open space right there.
And it's 8 o'clock. Do you have any other comments, ma'am? We need additional time to discuss parks and recreation as we move forward, but we're okay with the 18 fiscal year's plan.
All right, with $2.5 million.
There was no 2.5 million.
Oh, you want, well, wait a minute.
Well, it's going to come up during the budget, but for tonight, his plan is accepted. That's all. But we're not approving it until we approve the budget. So you really don't have
the direction is to put in the budget.
Put it in the budget. We'll see where it goes for budget time.
Okay. So we can pick it apart in the budget, like adding signage and that kind of stuff. Because I just want to make sure that that's
it's just
included.
like cleanliness and all these things. There's not. We got into it, but. Well, we can't talk after the meeting. What I'm getting at, though, Heidi, is Van Park, another drawback. You do not want to encourage more people to go there because there's no place for them to park. Most people, I mean, they learn to carpool. They learn to park up the street on Girona and Elgrove. There's no place else there for it. So, we all good?
Yeah.
All right, we're adjourned then.